Hello, and welcome to this very special episode of The Sausage Factory. As you know, The Sausage Factory is the preeminent source for live streaming, movie discussion, fun. I'm your moderator, Pizzell. I'm wearing my Rad Racing t-shirt because DJ Donnelly asked for it. So,
what the hell is
yes,
that movie not on Blu-ray or DVD already?
That's an excellent question. I wish I knew the answer. But with me tonight, I have got the Professor B Movie Mike. What's going on, Mike?
What's up, gentlemen? Ready to get some Star Wars action going? Excited? The 8-year-old inside of me is doing backflips.
And the backdrop there is very Yuletide, Mike. It's very seasonal.
Tis the season.
Yes, tis the season.
Now it's appropriate.
Also with me.
Yes, now it's appropriate.
Yeah, it's appropriate. Yes. Happy holidays. Also with me tonight is Jay the Stingray. What's going on, Stingray?
What is up, guys? I'm swagging like Han Yolo over here.
What are we drinking tonight?
Some sort of French roast. I forget the exact brand name.
Okay, good choice.
Like only Han Yolo would drink.
Also with me tonight is Mike, OCP Communications. What's going on, buddy?
Doing good. Glad to be on the show again. Been sick for a little bit. Had other things to do. But I wasn't going to miss the Star Wars thing. I just got to clarify. We're watching the original version, right? We're not. It's not the special edition.
I don't know.
I only have the special edition on DVD.
Whatever the series destroyed yet is what we're watching.
I'm watching the Blu-ray, and as far as I know, that has not been re-released as the original yet. So
no,
yes,
that's the special edition. But I have the despecialized edition, which is the actual non. This would be interesting. Other people will be watching the special edition, and then I'll be like.
Yeah, I would say
despecialized, and I think it's the same runtime.
I have the same one. Tampered by George Lucas. So
yeah,
I've got the Laserdisc. Is that good?
I have that too. Do you have the giant box set that like weighs 50 pounds almost? Yeah, that's what I got.
I wish I
could have went and got my VHS tapes, but
yeah.
Oh, man, that'd been sweet.
Maybe next time.
Also with me tonight is Rambo Ralph. What's going on, Rambo?
Doing well, folks. Well, that's a lie. A little bit under the
I thought
weather.
you were gonna be on tonight. Like that's what I remember.
I wasn't going to, but I can just lay down in a blanket. And actually, folks, the truth is, I'll be watching Kroll while they're watching Star Wars. So while they're busy with the lightsaber, I'll be busy with the glaive, which is cooler.
Sweet.
So Kroll for life, I guess. This is my new name.
Actually, I've got Spaceballs queued up here, so I'm going to be watching Spaceballs.
This is going to be interesting.
We're on the same page.
Well, I know he has some specialized editions.
I think Rahu's got those too, the despecialized edition.
Yeah, I decided to watch. I don't know why. I guess I just grabbed these out of laziness. They were downstairs. And should have grabbed the despecialized.
Well,
I have them somewhere.
Glad you could join us tonight, Rambo, even though you're a little under the weather. So.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Thank
you.
you.
Exactly. Also with me tonight is Raho Magnifico. What's going on, Raho?
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Hey, man, never tell me the odds.
That's
very well. Very excited for tonight.
How's things in Canada?
Actually, there was a fire downtown today, and a bunch of people don't have phones, so.
Cold?
Yeah. I was worried I wasn't gonna have internet, but it all worked out.
That's kind of crazy. If it's really cold over there and there's a fire, like you're probably wondering, like.
Ice fire.
Sounds like a good movie.
No Wicklow is safe.
That's a sci-fi movie original idea right there, starring like Linda Lamas and like.
I should totally contact.
Throw an anaconda in there and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
I would watch that.
Co-stars Jaleel White.
Ice fire.
It has a ring to it. I like that.
I would watch that in a second. Also with me tonight, I have got Orc. What's going on, Orc?
Happy holidays, faggots. What's going on?
Oh, wow.
was aggressive.
That was hot.
Got him! Oh, got him! A little bit too hardcore there, man.
Orc's
Too
been
much.
playing way too much. Orc's been playing way too much Black Ops 3.
Happens when the Doritos and the Mountain Dew gets to your head. All right, kids,
I
don't
was
let
gonna
it
say.
happen to you too.
COD Rage is not pretty.
Yep.
Real. Apologize to our viewers
Oh,
right now.
Timothy, I'm gonna find you and take your Doritos away, bitch. All right, this isn't the end of this shit.
Oh, no wonder you're drinking Mountain Dew. That's like Shrek piss.
Dude, it's delicious. Drink this. Oh my god, so good. Citrus, own
I
it.
used to drink Dew until I got Mellow Yellow.
Yeah,
Fuck
same here.
Dew.
I'd rather do the mellow yellow, yeah.
Those would
Well,
do it
sorry,
too,
I'm a
right?
Vault guy
Balls.
myself.
Hey, I like Volt too. But
This could be a long discussion.
I picked up a 40
Bring
of
me
08
Crystal
for
Pepsi.
tonight, so
Old
I went
English,
down to
hey.
the liquor store on the corner.
I
me
just
some
got
Moe's.
water and a Mountain Dew whiteout bottle.
You're drinking it out of a paper bag.
Yeah.
I need my paper bag, yeah. But yeah, we're watching Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope tonight. This is part of our 3-week lead up to the release of Star Wars The Force Awakens. We're going to be watching A New Hope this week. Next Thursday we'll be watching The Empire Strikes Back. And then the week after that we'll be watching Return of the Jedi. And then our first show back after the holiday season will be just a show dedicated to discussing The Force Awakens. So that should be pretty interesting.
I'll see if
As
I
always,
see
with
it by
all
then.
of hopefully.
Yeah.
As always, with all of our commentaries, if you guys want to watch with us at home, we've got our copy of the movie queued up at the very beginning, 00.00 before the titles, before anything, so that we can just push play and we'll dive right into the film, and hopefully we'll all be queued up and you can watch and discuss the film along with us. As far as the comment section of the video, the comments are disabled yet again. I tried contacting YouTube directly, but anybody who's dealt with YouTube knows that's like sending a letter to Santa. It's just not going to get there. I also attempted to.
What happened? Like, why did that happen? Like, did you have some troll on there that you tried to get rid of, and then YouTube was just...
You might as well send a comment to YouPorn. You get a faster comment reply back.
Oh no,
Oh,
they're nice
RedTube.
folks over there. No, they're very helpful.
Send it to RedTube, yeah. 'Cause
The very
YouTube Red,
hands-on.
RedTube.
It's true.
Hands-on and nice.
Yeah, they're going round and round and up and down, and they just want to get off.
I can't help it. I had to put a hand job in there for talking Star Wars.
Hey.
It's what George Lucas does.
Round
It's me
and round and
sometimes.
up and down, I just want to get off.
Sometimes stick up his ass too.
I want $5 billion and to be alone with Mickey.
Anyway, enough about George Lucas. Let's get to. Right, sorry about that.
But yeah, needless to say, I've heard nothing back from YouTube in regards to the issue. I even attempted contacting my partner program to go through them, but it turns out they're kind of useless too, unfortunately. So don't know anything about the
That's
comment
weird.
section
That's really
of the
weird.
video.
Like, why would that happen? It's just...
I have no idea.
Because
No
YouTube
idea.
are useless fucks.
Because Google.
And
Pretty much.
Google's a fucking asshole.
But if you guys want to communicate with us during the show, ask us questions, comments, share with us your thoughts on the Star Wars, the original trilogy, the only real trilogy, let's face it. Do that. You can either tweet to us at TSFNation. That link is in the description, or come over to the Sausage Factory website, thesausagefactoryshow.com, and join us in the live chat over there. That link is also in the description as well. So come on over there, or message us on Twitter, and we'll communicate during the commentary. While you guys are getting everything set up, I'll ask the panel: have you guys seen any good movies lately?
Saw a shitty movie called Tales of Halloween, which I thought if you want to see
anthology?
yeah, I was really
Actually liked
disappointed.
Actually liked it.
I thought Trick or Treat did it a lot better. It's
Well,
10
yeah.
stories, putting them in the 90 minutes. It just, a lot of them are forgettable for me. I mean,
Oh wow, that's a lot of stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
There's only 90
some of them
minutes.
are-
That's just...
yes, some of them are really brief.
Yeah.
But I liked it overall.
That's cool.
It's no Trick or Treat, but I mean I liked it overall.
Have any of you guys seen Volumes of Blood? Because I volunteered at the first ever horror convention in Portland, Oregon recently. So, and I actually got to talk with Cleve Hall, who was a makeup effects artist guy who worked on things like Ghoulies and The Dungeon Master and things like that. So that was kind of cool. Like I helped pick him up at the airport. But there was a film that I was watching there, and it was called Volumes of Blood, and it's like a really low-budget horror anthology. But I had fun with it. I thought it was a pretty entertaining movie for what it was. Had some good gore, and I thought it was a decent movie. It's a low-budget movie, and it had some really good cinematography in it for such a low budget. It was like a joint project between the local Kentucky library and like the Kentucky Film School. So it was, it could have been a lot worse. One of the producers is Nathan Thomas Milner, who did a lot of the artwork for Scream Factory. So I think that's pretty interesting. And I don't know if it's available anywhere. But I also got to see Barbara Steele because she was there at the convention, and so I got to like ask her a couple questions and things like that. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I haven't really seen much except I've been trying to watch this movie, Race for Glory. Like, it's extremely rare and hard to find, and only on VHS, but like it's really boring and dull. Like, I'm having a hard time watching it. Like,
so it's no rad, I guess.
no,
No
even
rad.
close. Even though it gets over 6.0 out of 10 on IMDb, I think that's because there's just a few people have seen it, give it a high rating because they're like, I love motorcycle racing, and this is the only movie about motorcycle racing. So
Yeah.
let's give it a huge rating. But I also saw Spectre, which I really did not care for. I thought it was a really disappointing movie. I thought it was one of the worst Bond films I've seen since Quantum of Solace. And so that's really, honestly, all I've been kind of doing lately is like stuff like that. I watched Over the Top again. I really had a lot of fun with that. So,
Okay.
But
I've skipped Spectre. I'm just not the world's biggest Bond fan. I don't know, something about those movies don't really, especially the more recent ones don't really do it for me. The Connery era, those
I
were
really liked
fun.
Skyfall, so that's why it was so disappointing because it was just
They don't really do anything.
pretty lame.
Yeah.
I know he's not necessarily universally the favorite, but the Roger Moore films are kind of where it begins and ends with me and with Bond. Those are like my favorites.
My favorite Bond is always is Timothy Dalton. Like, I'm gonna be like the really out of the box guy. Like, part of it might be because what's with the harmonica?
Here's got the Blues Travelers going. Come on now.
Okay. Well, part of the stuff with me and Timothy Dalton is because it was like the first Bond film I saw was Living Daylights. So I like Timothy Dalton. I think he gets a raw deal in terms of the Bond franchise type thing.
Mm-hmm.
GoldenEye, best movie, best game, son.
Oh, GoldenEye was a good game.
On the 64, yeah, I remember playing that with my friends. And,
Really good on the Wii too.
Yeah.
What about you, Raho or Mike? Stingray, you guys see any good movies lately?
I saw Spectre and I loved it.
Okay. That's cool.
It's all good. No, I also loved Skyfall, so I went into it with a lot of anticipation. And although I didn't like the very ending of it, I won't talk about it, but I didn't like kind of the very, very ending of it. And I did enjoy it up to that point. So I liked it. I can't think of what else I saw that would have been. Oh, I watched this movie on Tuesday.
Star Wars.
Okay.
Is that what we're talking about?
Okay.
No, I tell you, we're talking about Kroll.
Oh yes, the McGlaive. Keep forgetting. Was the glaive like a Ninja Star thing?
Or like a boomerang.
Right at the fire mirrors.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike or Stingray? You guys seen any good movies lately?
Go ahead, Jay.
I really haven't seen a whole lot. I saw The Good Dinosaur over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
New Pixar flick.
How was
Mhm.
it?
I really enjoyed it. It was great.
Nice.
Pixar, you know, doing their usual stuff.
Good to know. I wasn't sure what they had out recently, so that's cool.
Yeah, cool. What about you, Mike?
No, unfortunately, I have not had a chance to watch many films between working and playing some Black Ops with Orc there. Having some fun, playing guitar and stuff. I do have plans to see Krampus next week, although
that does look pretty good.
I don't know. It's PG-13, and I hate to be one of those guys. You
I
know what I
didn't
mean?
know
I hate to be one of those guys, but it's a fucking horror movie.
That's
You know what I mean?
understandable.
They can't tell me that, R doesn't make it better. Well, to me it does, because it allows them to do more. You know,
I didn't know it was PG-13.
I agree with you perfectly. There was another film that I liked, but the only problem was the rating. That was The Final Girls. I liked The Final Girls, but it being a PG-13 rating hurts the film. And sometimes
The Final Girls, a movie's about boobs and blood, and you're going to rate it PG-13.
And the reasoning was stupid. It was like, well, if we rate it rated R, it'll take away from the humor. And I'm like, you haven't seen Evil Dead 2. You haven't
seen Tucker and Dale vs. Evil? I mean, that's another film I saw recently, and that's rated R to the core, and it's hilarious.
There were crucial scenes in that movie that needed nudity.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, it was part of the plot.
I get what you mean, yeah. That was my one hiccup on that. Sorry, go ahead.
But
I'm optimistic about the Krampus despite the rating because I mean it's the guy that did Trick or Treat, and I think it'll be smart. I think it'll be horror but comedic.
Maybe in the vein of Gremlins, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Something like
or the
that.
Monster Squad. The Monster Squad is PG-13. I mean, that's not.
Right.
But with a villain like Krampus, though, it just seems a little soft.
Right.
I
The
don't
way it
mind
was in the
it.
trailer,
Kids.
Yeah.
I don't mind a PG-13 rating. It's when they go into it hoping for a PG-13 rating is what pisses me off.
Yeah.
So, it really, cuts down on what they can do.
It's something that's kind of taking over in a lot of ways. You see it in the action genre a lot, and now you're starting to see it in the horror genre. You saw it in the horror genre a while back because of The Grudge and films like that. But it's just kind of like R-rated horror film, R-rated action film is kind of something you don't see very much nowadays. And even if like Expendables 3 is a prime example. Like, what the hell were they doing there? Like, that made no sense whatsoever to make Expendables 3 PG-13. Would it have made the movie good? Absolutely not, because the movie still sucked. But it's just against the core of what that franchise is about.
They're just trying to make it more accessible to a wider audience, which I think
That money.
in a lot of ways. But I think in a lot of ways, when they do that, especially with a horror film, they narrow the audience.
Yeah, it narrows
Because the hardcore horror fan, we don't want to see a PG-13 horror movie. We want to see an R-rated horror movie. So I mean, that might attract more, teens.
They want to do that because of Ouija. Ouija made over $100 million worldwide, if I remember correctly, and like a shit ton of money domestic because it was PG-13, and all the teens went and saw it. It's a horrible movie, but it was a hit. Yeah. 12-year-old, girls and stuff, and whatever, just it's sad.
Yeah.
Really.
The PG-13 rating on a horror film, I don't know, it either tells me that A, they're just really greedy bastards and they want to make as much money as possible, so they put it out there for the casuals, or they don't have confidence in how good the film is to bring in people for an R rating. So it's like, well, I don't know, it's not that great, so let's get the PG, let's get the first weekend. PG-13, the first weekend is all that matters.
World
It just
War Z
reminds
is
me
a
of
good
being back in the
example.
80s. You go see a movie like Friday the 13th 7, it's all cut to shit. The
Mm-hmm.
censors take out all the good stuff, right? But it's rated R. You're expecting rated R. Well, now they don't even give us that. It's just, here's your product, it's PG-13, fuck you. It's even worse.
Yeah.
World War Z is a good example because World War Z was not released R-rated in theaters. It was PG-13, but I only saw the unrated cut. I love the unrated cut, and I haven't seen the PG-13 cut, and I probably won't because it probably is not nearly as good as the unrated cut was.
I think
And
another thing they're afraid of is even if they make a good film that's R-rated, no one will go see it.
like
It
Dread.
does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even like
Yeah.
horror films, there are good horror films that are R-rated that no one goes to see.
Well, a lot of these films make their money on Blu-ray and digital downloads, and that's where they find their audiences anyway. So they really can't expect Krampus to have a Star Wars weekend. What are they smoking?
Right.
You know?
Or
So why not put it out there? Get the people in there, and then when it comes out, people will buy it.
I thought It Follows was a surprise. Like, it made some money. It's surprised it made some money, even though it was an R-rated film. So
that's a good example of.
I was surprised that was even in theaters. I really was.
Yeah.
That was as close to an independent film getting a theatrical release as you can get. So
I think when I first saw a preview for Krampus, it said rating pending or something, so I didn't know what it was rated. And then when I saw the final rating, I loved the preview so much. I was just looking forward to it. And then I saw PG, it was like, wah, wah.
Is it Lionsgate?
And I was like, oh, damn.
Is it Lionsgate who's releasing that?
I don't think so. It might be. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
Because I know Lionsgate tends to do that. They tend to do the, okay, let's slash the rating down, PG-13 type thing. To get more money.
Universal.
I don't know.
It's like unrated.
But see, a lot of horror movies, like especially the Blumhouse dude, he makes them so cheaply that he can rate them whatever. Because I mean, they're guaranteed to make
Like
money. He
Paranormal
makes them so
Activity?
cheaply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They-
So, I mean, if
they
you're
put
gonna do
out,
a horror movie.
Every movie that's this theatrical lately, every theatrical horror movie has been Blumhouse
they all
somewhere.
And they all make money because he produces them so cheap that they make money. You know what I mean?
I look back to my heroes like Romero, who wouldn't even bow down to an R rating. He would take the hit and release it independently as unrated, knowing that it wasn't going to go into theaters and it wasn't really going to make a lot of money.
That's what he did with Day of the Dead, I think. Yeah. Day of the Dead did not.
Loyalty to your fan base and to your art it doesn't exist. It's all fast food PG-13
he took
bullshit.
He took a huge cut on the budget too because the producer was like, "Well, I'll give you this amount of money if it's R." And he was like, "No, we're an unrated." He said, "Okay, well, I'll give you half." So he had to cut his script in half.
Mm-hmm.
It exists. It exists. I think the loyalty exists on the independent film circuit, like when a direct-to-video horror films, because they didn't really have to deal with the studio nearly as much or deal with demographic. Because it's just, okay, it's a direct-to-video horror film. You buy it at Walmart, or you get it off Netflix or Amazon Prime or something. So they really need to, so they have more free reign, so to speak. It's still bullshit, but it's just, that's Hollywood for you.
Well, it's like Final Girls was PG-13, and I mean, where did that come out theatrically?
Barely
I
anywhere.
mean, who the fuck cares on a DVD what it's rated?
Yeah.
It seems like that was their intention. They wanted PG-13. They weren't cut down. Just there was some interview, and I blocked it out.
Yeah. And Tucker and Dale was held back for release for like 3 years until it was finally released, which I was really shocked by that. I was like, why was that held back for so many years?
Because it's too good.
Yeah.
We
can't release this. This is actually a good movie. What the fuck are you thinking?
Yeah.
I wish that had a wider release like Cabin in the Woods. I think it's a much better film
They
than
need
Cabin
to
in the
do
Woods.
found footage.
Yeah. Even non-horror fans love Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh, it's
Like people I work with, like they'll stumble across it on YouTube, on Netflix, and they'll just be like, "Oh
I
my
watched
God, that movie
that.
was so
I
funny."
watched that with my mom and my stepdad, and they all like. My mom does not like horror films, but she had some fun with it. So yeah. So
That's a great movie. Awesome movie.
I think
Cole's joined us. What's going on, Cole?
Jay twisted my arm, so I'm here.
Yay!
All right, well done, man. Come on, man. We can't do a Star Wars show without you. Come
You
on.
got me here with flattery. Flattery will get you everywhere.
I don't even want to know what he offered. I don't even want to know what he promised you.
That is-
I don't even want to know.
That is
better
between
not start
us.
pissing on hospitality because I won't allow it.
How have
That
you
is-
been, Cole?
Yeah, been better. I'm all right.
Okay. Have you got your copy of A New Hope queued up and ready?
I got it right at a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So you
I
can
got
Go
it
off,
at
go
0, 0,
back.
0, 0.
Go back to 0000, all the way to the beginning.
Is that the 20th
Actually,
Fox logo?
It should just be
even
black.
before that.
I just have
Even
wires.
before that.
Like
Yeah.
1 second before that.
All right, I guess that's it. Okay, hold on a second then.
I actually sat down and watched the new Synapse release of Mosquito on Blu-ray.
Ah,
Oh, wow.
And,
that sounds like a great release. And I have
I've
it thanks to
always-
my good friend. One of my good friends sent it to me, so, and another friend sent it to him. So I've been really blessed in that regard. So thanks.
You're
It's a really
welcome.
good release. There is, keep in mind, the movie is only 92 minutes. There is an hour and 15-minute long making of
I
documentary.
know.
That's what I told you. It's a good one.
And
It's awesome. I've always loved this movie. I mean, I used to catch this movie all the time on, like, late night, up all night kind of stuff, man. And just love this movie. Love this movie.
It's
I
a fun
agree.
movie. It's definitely a low budget film, but
Oh,
there's
very, very low budget.
bad. It's a lot better than the other Mosquito movie, Skeeter. Like, that's a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I still haven't finished that movie. I tried watching it on VHS years ago, and every single time I tried to watch it, I kept falling asleep. I still have not finished that film.
is Gunnar Hansen in any of the special features?
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
he's interviewed. This is before he
Okay.
passed away.
I actually picked that up to.
So Synapse
that.
actually, got him interviewed before he passed away.
Yeah.
Unlike fucking Scream Factory and Universal was like, oh, wait too long for Surfing the Rainbow. So.
Well, let's go ahead and dive right into a galaxy far, far away. And again, if you guys want to communicate with us during the show, leave us questions, comments, tell us your own fond memories of Star Wars, whatever you want. Tweet to us at TSF Nation. The link is in the description, or come over to the website, to the live chat room over there. That link is also in the description. It's thesausagefactoryshow.com. So we'll go ahead and we will count down from 5, and we will start the film. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And mind those volumes, people. Mind those volumes. Whew. Oh, I just got chills.
Bottle opener.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
My fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's one thing about the release that we're watching, Pizzazz. They have that 20th Century Fox thing twice, so we're going to be behind everybody.
Shit.
Well, somebody's completely synced with me.
Okay, I'm so off sync here. Like, where is everybody?
It's Star Wars. Everyone should memorize it by now.
They're scrolling up. Episode 4 of New Hope is scrolling up right
I'm
now.
not seeing it at all. I'm still at the Lucasfilm.
I'm
logo.
still at the, it's a rebel period of Civil
Wait,
War,
did we-
blah, blah, blah.
Did we
press
play yet?
Rebel
This is-
spies.
It's
This
the same
is a
thing.
cluster.
Yeah.
Oh shit! You guys press
What's
play.
on
Hold on.
screen?
Right now, Martin Short is on screen with a very large helmet on.
Not there yet.
I
Not
think,
even remotely close.
I'm at the part where the glaive comes up and it says Troll.
Are you seriously watching Grohl?
No, I have
You
Star
could
Wars.
You can pull it off.
I could pull it off. I mean, who hasn't seen
Dude, by
Star
the
Wars? I
Empire
mean,
Sinister Agents.
A
by
million
this point,
times.
everyone has memorized the film. And to
I'm
remember
so
Oh,
far
Mark,
behind
man.
everybody. I don't even know where I am. So.
the Troll's
The
about
scroll
ready to
is-
be done.
Yeah, the scroll's about ending. It's about ending right now.
Scroll is flying.
If you
over.
can read this,
Got
then
it
you
tied up.
don't need glasses.
It's ended just.
I thought the scrolling was a really cool touch too, and I don't think movies did that before that, right?
Well, what it was
Well, see,
a
what-
reference to the serials. Because George Lucas wanted to make Buck
Flash
Rogers
Gordon.
or Flash Gordon. That's what he wanted to do.
Oh
He
yeah.
couldn't get the rights. Wow.
Well, and this way he can get all the exposition out of the way, and it's just all
Yeah.
about blasters and Jedis and lightsabers.
I gotta be honest. This guy, Hammy or whatever, did a great job with this specialized edition. Like, it looks fucking awesome.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Hey, I didn't
Let's
buy
talk
a
to play
damn
the
movie to
specialized
read,
edition.
alright? I'm not reading.
I ain't doing
Well, I'm
By
that.
at
the
the
way,
part where the destroyer
By the,
shooting at the
Yeah,
medical
this-
ship. So
Yeah. Exactly. Perfect.
C-3PO.
by the
so-
way, I think some of us are watching the special edition, and some of us are watching the despecialized
Yeah.
editions. So
Yeah,
I'm watching
I have
the
both.
original.
I didn't know which one I was supposed to watch.
I'm watching the
having
OG.
the team
I'm
with
not
guys.
watching the shitty special edition with horrible CGI shoved in there. I'm not doing that shit.
I don't know. Of the three, I think A New Hope is the one that's the least offensive with the changes.
It is.
Yeah, there's still some stuff that's messed up in there, though.
It's basically all the stuff.
So you'll
from
get a
Mos
little bit of
Eisley.
both.
Like what?
Yeah.
Meeting
I thought it'd be a good
Java? I
idea if
don't.
we did
I
watch
don't-
the special edition. That way we could point out and make fun of all the bad stuff that they added. I thought that would add to the commentary.
This is why I bought the
that's
damn
true.
special edition.
That's the most readily available edition, so it kind of makes sense to watch that one.
I'd rather just watch the original. Fuck the special edition.
I know this is a nitpick and it's stupid. But I always hate that Episode 4 shit. I just call it fucking Star Wars.
Matt, I'm with you.
Yep.
I hated that too. I don't call it Episode 4. I don't call Empire
Star
Strikes
Wars.
Back Episode 5. I call episode. It's Star Wars.
It ain't,
Star Wars.
it ain't a fucking TV series.
Yeah.
No, but it's a movie series.
If Disney has their way, they'll get rid of all the episode numbers anyway.
And there's one thing about the special editions I don't mind is the fixing like some of the effects. Like, you know, they change
It
some
looks
things
amazing.
around, you know, fix some of that stuff, so, you know.
It looks really good on Blu-ray. It looks really
Yeah.
good.
I like the added, like later on, they added some X-Wing stuff that wasn't a, you know what I mean, like going around planets and stuff like that. I always
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. There are some added editions, the special edition trilogy. It's not horrible, but it's
It's just the changes that bother me.
the changes that are
This,
annoying.
this is
Because
my
the
first
stuff that they did were stuff that would have just been added in remastering anyway. They would have just done that while they're remastering it for Blu-ray in the first place, probably. So, Vader.
Vader. Vader is
Dun,
interesting.
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, this is my first time to watch the HD transfer, so
It's good.
Yeah, it looks really
Pretty
good.
slick, yeah. In fact, like I said, I just watched it, and if you guys see any grain, let me know. I didn't see any grain whatsoever. It was just like pristine the whole time.
Well, grain, I think is fine. It adds to the. It's a part of the film.
Mhm.
I mean, that's better than the other frickin' like
yeah.
Moontrap by, you know, Oliver Krekel, who likes to just smooth everything out and say grain is not a part of the film.
Well, I mean, you know, they had
Oh.
a great negative to work with on this. So
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Why
It's-
it's little
Yeah.
grain in
They
it.
didn't really touch anything up. I think they just had
Exactly.
a really good copy to run it
Yeah.
off of. I expected in the desert for there to be grain, and I didn't notice anything too bad. So
Yeah. Well, I'm not even to the desert part yet. So.
I know, yeah.
Either I'm way behind or you're way ahead.
I just
Well, now
watched it.
Now that we're
Talking
getting,
in.
now that we're getting into it, I want to ask you guys and everybody at home too. Do you guys remember your first Star Wars experience? Do you remember what's the first Star Wars film you saw? I'll start with you, Rahul.
I can't remember what answer I gave the time we talked about Star Wars on the show. I don't think I have a memory of the exact first time I watched it. It could have been on TV. I can say for sure that just before the special editions came out, one of Cole and I's good friends he had the trilogy on VHS. It's that black VHS set, the three of them, and they're in like a
Yeah.
slipcase. And I remember he was like, "You got to watch these movies," and I don't think that was the first time I watched them, but I know I call that the first time sometimes because it was like watching them all over again. You know what I mean? It was this awesome VHS cut, and it was cleaned up and stuff like that, and it was before he added anything. And I think it might have even had deleted scenes and stuff like that added. That might have been the first time I saw the first Jabba scene where it's the old fat guy, whatever. But yeah, so that's probably one of the first times I saw the movies in their entirety. So that would have been just before the re-releases.
Was it love at first sight? I mean, how did you? What was the impact?
I adored them then, and I adore them now. And that just got me even more excited for when the special editions came out. I went full fanboy for those movies. I was so excited. You know, I had a little Boba Fett figure and stuff like that, and like like Sand Trooper, and I was absolutely obsessed with them, and
I had
that
the
all
same
started
too,
for me.
That was one of my best theatrical experiences. Was the re-releases.
That was unbelievable.
Same here.
you know, the joy. You know, it wasn't a bunch of dumbasses making noise. Everyone was just
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
genuinely
You
excited.
could hear a pin drop in there, I'm sure, man. They
Oh,
were
dude,
very-
everybody was like talking, and then the movie started. Complete silence.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
What about you, OCP? Do you remember first time watching Star Wars? And which one it
Oh,
was?
that's interesting. I think it was the first film, and I believe it was on VHS. Because I believe it was I had kind of an aunt, and she babysit me, and she had the trilogy, like the original, like 20th Century Fox, like old school box set, the one that has like the poster image of Luke and Leia on it and everything. And I remember watching it then, and then I know my mom bought me the original trilogy set, and so I just always remember watching it in order, really. So it's not really anything super spectacular in terms of memories with it, because this is kind of what I remember. It's just, watching it on VHS and liking it, and along with all the other stuff like Star Trek and stuff like that. So, and I had action figures too. So I had a lot of Star Wars toys. So, I had like Boba Fett, I had Han Solo, I had Luke Skywalker, I had an X-wing, a snow speeder. So I don't have a lot of them anymore. But
Were they the figures where the lightsabers like came out the hands, like they were in the arm and they came out the
no,
hands?
not those old ones. No, it was the re-release stuff that was around the time of the special editions.
Okay. Well, I guess you may not be that old. You may not be that
No,
old for
I'm
those.
26, so but I do
So no, you're
remember
not.
those because I had those. I had the ones that you pull the thing out because my stepdad had that and he gave them to me. So then I did have that Vader, the one that the saber comes out out of his wrist, but
The detail in that transfer, man, that's amazing.
I know, it looks. This desert sequence looks really good.
It does look great.
It's like seeing Tunisia, like all this stuff
Yeah.
all over again. It is.
But
it's
yeah, I
impressive.
pretty much I saw Empire Strikes Back in the theater, the special edition. I know I saw it in the theater. I don't think I saw the first one, and I don't think I saw Return of the Jedi. I was only able to see the re-release of Empire Strikes Back. So, but that's just me personally. And I saw all the prequels though, regrettably, in the theater. So. Yeah.
I saw the first two, and I was done after that. I was
Not too
done.
bad.
I had no interest to see the third one in the theater.
That was arguably
I
the
did.
most watchable one.
Yeah, I mean
out of
it's the best
out
of the three,
Yeah.
easily.
Which
I
one?
actually like the first one better than the third one.
Really? I can't. I
The only
can't.
thing about the first one I like is the Darth Maul fight at the
Kid
end.
Anakin. I hate Kid Anakin.
That's it. Yippee!
Yeah.
I really don't care how bad Hayden Christensen is. He's still not Kid Anakin.
Part one's my least favorite. Or
Yeah.
That
Part
kid,
least. Mo-
that kid,
most hated, I should say.
that
That
kid is
kid-
like the Steen virus.
That kid was
Well,
better
I-
than Bingo all the way. Like, what the hell happened? To
I have to admit, the reason that I do like the first episode so much is because of Darth Maul. So,
I like
Darth
Darth
Maul,
Maul, but,
He should have been in all of them.
It's a good reason.
yeah, true. Yeah. He should have been in all of them, I agree.
Drives me nuts.
Yeah, I know. Like
Criminal
killing the guy
Vader.
that killed Qui-Gon early is kind of.
Yeah, that was
It
dumb.
takes
Darth
out
Maul
some of the
was so much
motivation.
better than Count Dooku too, or Grievous.
Well, they had to keep
would've been
making
so
up
much better
in
than
every
Greed.
movie. They're like, here's a new one. I'm like, come on. You got to have a Vader. Goes all the way through.
Yeah, that's one thing about Force Awakens I'm not too keen on, because Kylo Ren is pretty much just Vader again, really. I know he's inspired by Vader, so that's the point, but it's just a low-rent Vader. Like, if this was not Star Wars, people would be like, wow, it's a Star Crash with the Vader ripoff, because that's kind of what, if that character was not in a Star Wars movie, people would be calling that a Vader ripoff. I guarantee it.
I'm hoping that there's more depth and all that.
I hope so too.
Yeah. I think we all sound like comic book guy right now.
Yeah.
It's be a Vader ripoff.
Lame.
What was your first experience with Star Wars, Mike? And do you remember what the first one was you saw?
Being the elder statesman, I don't want to go into that too much, but I was able to experience the first movie in the theaters when I was a young man. Actually,
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
young child.
That's
Great.
June of 1977, Mini-Me walked into a theater and had his mind fucking blown out the back of his skull, and I have not been the same since. This is the movie that made me love movies.
Yeah.
This is the one. I walked in and went, holy shit, and my little 8-year-old brain couldn't handle the power of the movie, and it just, it was great. I mean, that's what made me want to go to film school, is what made, I'm on YouTube talking about movies is because of this movie. It's amazing.
wow.
This movie is made for an 8-year-old boy.
I was definitely the target audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the toys, like he was talking about the Luke Skywalker with the lightsaber in his arm and the Darth Vader and the Millennium Falcon and all that stuff. And, had I not played with it and actually, put it in a box and left it in my closet, it worth quite a bit of money, but I had fun with it.
Gently used.
But
Gently
his
used money.
toys. Like,
You gotta
I'd
use that
rather the kids play with their toys than just save them.
Tell an 8-year-old kid, hey, here's a Millennium Falcon you just got for Christmas, but you can't play with it because it's going to be worth money. 8-year-old's going to be like, fuck you, give me the toy.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, that was something brilliant that George Lucas did, was the merchandising for this film. I mean, that was really
that was a lot of Kenner, really. I mean, Kenner was the one that really, and George decided to do that, but George also bought the rights for really cheap because he honestly, they were cheap, and he thought, I'll get some money. Even if the film doesn't hit, I'll get some money with the merchandise. That's kind of what he was looking at. George really wasn't very hopeful about this film's success at all.
It was more
That's
Fox's
why he made
than him being smart. Fox didn't think it would make any money.
Yeah.
In merchandising, so they said, "Fine, you can have the merchandising."
Exactly. Yeah. Well. Also, George could have just not have. He could have not have bought the rights. I mean, there's a lot of other people who wouldn't have done that. So it's a combination of Fox being dumb and George also taking advantage of the opportunity. But at the same time, George really wasn't faithful in this film's success at all. Like, he was over in Hawaii with his friend. He was with his friend Steven Spielberg in Hawaii, and he was just expecting it to flop. And that's why he made that agreement with Steven that, okay, you can have part of the film's profits. It's not going to make any money, so here you go. And that's why Steven Spielberg is still making money.
Seeing some shitty CGI here, guys.
From,
What are they called? Dewbacks?
I think so.
Dewbacks.
I love that. I love those sand troopers. I call them. I always call them that. They're like my favorite stormtroopers.
Have you seen that
we both have
video called Troops? Have you seen that, Ryo? Have you seen that? Because that's, if you like the Sand Troopers, you're gonna have a lot of fun with that. Because it's like a parody of Cops, but it's with the Sand Troopers.
Oh, cool.
Gotta love some of this stuff. There's a walking garbage can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think there's so much creativity and stuff put into this, and then there's just like, a walking garbage can.
A walking garbage can.
Which I guess was so popular, they had to bring it back for interviews.
I must be so way ahead of everybody, because I've already passed the walking garbage can part.
That walking garbage can is better than anything in the prequels.
Because where I'm at is the Jawas are there, and they're trying to sell the droids. That's where I'm at.
That's where we're at, too. Right before the scene, there's a little...
Yeah.
Can walks by. Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm at the part with the horses riding the fire mares.
Isn't that later in the film, though?
Yeah, but this is a lead-up.
I don't know. Bill Pullman's just rescued Daphne Zuniga on my screen. So I don't know what.
I just think the casting of Rick Moranis was genius.
Yeah, it is great.
Brilliant.
Here comes the part where, Luke sounds whiny pretty soon.
A couple of those Jawas are taller than I remember.
It's like the one moment he sounds like his dad.
Wow,
yeah.
It's a full-sized one.
A couple of those Jawas are at least 5 feet. I
wanted to go to the Tasha station to buy some power converters.
Jordan's like, whinier. Can you give it to me whinier? We want people to relate to this character.
So that's
Okay,
why
do you remember?
Don't get
Do
too
you remember
attached
the
to
first
that arm,
time
boy.
you saw a Star Wars film and which one it was? Yeah.
I probably saw at
And
least
power converters.
I probably saw at least pieces of the original trilogy on TV as a kid. It's a lot like what Raiho said. We had a friend who was really into it, and I'm pretty sure the first time I ever saw one of them all the way through was on one of his VHS copies. Was when I was in Scouts. He was one of my friends in Scouts with me, our friend, and we had like a sleepover at the hall where we do meetings. And we were encouraged to like bring stuff or bring movies, and he brought Return of the Jedi. So I think that was the first time I saw one start to finish. So that was about 2.5 to 3 years before 2.5 to 3 years before the pre-release stuff started. So like, 'cause by 1996. I was already fully indoctrinated and a huge Star Wars fan, and as Ryan said, like going from 96 to 97 with the re-releases of those movies and all the marketing and stuff that went along, like we both just ate everything up. We were all over the place. We were, getting magazines about
I got like the Taco Bell toys. Like I still have that like weird, like it's like a block. It's like it's not really a Tetris block, but it's kind of like it. That like creates like pictures and stuff. And then there's like the one that's like the Cloud City, just floating structure that like sits on something, and then like you pull the Millennium Falcon and it makes a noise. Like I still have those old toys from like the special edition, like way back from Taco Bell, because it was so big.
So yeah, so I was like totally obsessed with like Shadows of the Empire when like that happened, and the game that came with it, and the comic and stuff, and so it's that era. But I would have to say about 3.5 years before that was probably when I first saw the movies. I'm almost positive start to finish. I saw Return of the Jedi first, then saw the other two, and went back to it that way. But I was like most people, like I was totally hooked. I thought they were like great, amazing movies, and became very early on. I became like aware of like the expanded universe aspect, all the other stuff that was going on with it. What's funny is my oldest Star Wars memory, I didn't know was Star Wars, was that I used to watch the Ewok show. And not have any fucking clue. Yeah, and have not any clue that it had anything to do with Star Wars, because this is my age, right? Like, I'm too young to watch these movies when they first came out. I wasn't even born for the first two.
Yeah.
So, like, I watched the Ewok cartoon, like, a little bit. Like, it's not like I was a fan of it. And, like, the earliest thing I can remember is, like, when I was, like, really young at, like, our rink, we had Ice Capades come. And they did all sorts of stuff. But one of the things they did was, I swear, was they had Ewoks. Like Ice Capades Ewok. And they had this bit like where they all leave, and they leave some sort of like crystal or something in the middle. And then like while they're gone, their main enemy, who I still remember, called the Doomlocks, come out and steal it. And then they have this interactive bit with the audience where they come out and they go, "Oh no, the crystal's gone. What happened?" And they're talking, they're yelling at us, the kids in the audience. They're like, "Who was it?" And we're like, "The Doomlocks." And they're like, "Was it?" And they name like 4 or 5 made-up bullshit things. So like, "Was it this? Was it that?" And we're like, "No." And then they go, big stinger on the soundtrack. "Was it the Doomlocks?" We're all like, "Yes." Anyway, I knew the show well enough to remember right off that those were Doomlocks.
So it's almost
like 6 or 7.
Robot Chicken parodied like Star Wars and Ice. Like that was actually almost a real thing.
So it wasn't until probably about 4 or 5 years later, where I'm like closer to like 9 or 10, that I realized that the Ewoks and stuff are all tied into the Star Wars universe. So I watched that show, unlike most kids, like, oh, this is related to Star Wars. Cool. I was too young. I didn't know the Star Wars. So I just watched the show as its own thing. I know people said that there's a few episodes where like R2-D2 and C-3PO would show up. Maybe they did, but I have no memory of it if they did, and it would have meant nothing to me. And my other earliest memory, very quickly, is I guess at the time, I think it was a Burger King collector's glass that came out for that we always had. There was a Burger King's collector's glass for Empire Strikes Back. You can probably find on the internet, where it's like a real glass, not a cup, no shitty cup, glass, and it had a Hoth scene. It had Hoth with Luke on the back of the thing.
Tauntaun, yeah.
On the Tauntaun, and then like off to the side of him are R2-D2 and C-3PO in Star Wars. And for years I used that glass until like eventually like repeated washing.
Glass vividly.
There you go. And repeated washing surely wore it down. So I remember like knowing, like having that glass and like using it and like knowing it was something, but not actually having seen the movies yet. Like, I was such a little kid. So.
I had that glass too. I think I had the set. Those were pretty cool back when they had like real quality.
Was it Burger King? I think it's Burger King.
I think it was Burger King because they were doing all those. They did that for the Great Muppet Caper too, and during that
It
period
makes
of
more
time.
sense that it was Burger King than McDonald's. Like the only thing I could think of McDonald's doing glasses was Batman Forever, and I had one of them, like the one with Batman on it. It was
I'm
just
sure those are worth a fortune.
no.
Yeah.
Not the Batman ones. I mean,
So, yeah, I got what you were saying there.
Ryan, do you
I got
have
what
that?
were saying.
That's a veer us off topic. But Ryan, did you have that Riddler glass with the big question mark on it that they had?
I had all of the Batman Forever glasses, I think. With the ones with the lid up on the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, there's like one that has like just a big question mark etched into
Sculpted
the
glass. Yeah.
I was wondering. I remember that, and I thought you must have had it because I didn't.
I had all those. I had all the Jurassic Park McDonald's
cool.
ones.
Yeah, that was
I
always
had,
Ryan's family always collected that stuff.
I collected all those. I had them all in the cupboard, and they over the years got destroyed.
My
sent a
my
link to,
grandmother used
Paul,
the Batman
those
ones for
glasses.
paint glass, and that was it. That was it. I didn't even give her permission to use it for a paint glass, and then it was just she used it for paint. And then I just see it, and I'm like, it's all messed up, and I'm like, it's all messed up. Oh no!
go and get you a jelly jar, Nana. What you using my damn cup for?
It's all
Did you
scratched
see
up.
all the original films in the original trilogy, Mike, in the theater?
Yes, I did. Empire still being my favorite, although the first one holds a special place in my heart. But Empire's my favorite.
Drink your blue milk, Luke.
Blue milk.
You want to have
Yeah.
strong blue bones.
Blue milk and porridge, because that's the only thing that a moisture farmer can eat.
I'm just
before they start a
amazed.
long day in the desert.
I was such a huge fan of these movies that I had the soundtrack on LP of the original
Yeah.
film. I had the comic books. I had the novelizations. You know, the
I have
toys.
an organization.
Everything freaking Star Wars, man. I think I had Star Wars blankets in my room. I mean, I was just a freak for this stuff.
So you were like Oliver Robbins, like, you know, from Poltergeist. You know, like the kid who was like big into Star Wars and like had the Star Wars blankets and you know all that stuff and everything.
Oh yeah, I was a
Mike,
total Star Wars nerd.
did you have the light up Star Wars sneakers? Every time you walked, they would light up. Did you
No,
get
I didn't
those?
have those. I don't remember those.
That was a '90s thing. That's not a. That's, they didn't have
Hell
light up
yeah.
shoes.
I'm talking about like the late '70s, early '80s.
Yeah,
Long before you were born.
love this score. John Williams is just.
Yeah.
John Williams' score is every bit as iconic as the film itself.
Absolutely.
It's another one of those films like Halloween that without the score, it's half the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. It captures the emotion of the film so well.
One of many iconic John Williams scores.
I was gonna say I'd attribute that
Yeah.
to the genius of John Williams. I mean,
Yeah,
he had so many films and they're all iconic. I mean, jeez.
You just
Like-
nailed their feelings always.
the
like,
1979 Dracula film, which is a pretty forgettable movie, the score he did was excellent. It's one of my favorite, you know, John Williams
Oh,
scores.
music picking up right here is so great.
Yeah,
I mean, it sells this moment, right? He's looking
Yeah.
off into the distance, which we've seen in movies, you know, longing for something else but the music.
yeah.
But I missed some of what Mike said there. But yeah, like stuff like from the original era, like that's sort of become a passion of mine of collecting that kind of stuff. Like I think most people know, like I'm a comic book collector, and Marvel actually were the very first people to have the very first other company outside Lucas to like have the rights to Star Wars. And actually, if you were a comic book reader in 1976, you could actually know A New Hope before it hit theaters because you would have read at least the first 3 or 4 of the 6-issue arc that made up A New Hope. And I've got all those, but here's probably the thing I'm most proud of.
I had those when I was a kid.
Is this is like a big special edition of all the comics put together that made Empire Strikes Back. It's in shitty shape, but it's still really nice to have.
Wow, that's cool.
Back when they used to have those
Cool.
Marvel special editions. So this is all those together. It's a special collector's edition. And what's funny is like it says here the official comics adaptation of the most eagerly awaited space fantasy film of all. And usually you see that kind of stuff and like, you know, it's hyperbole, but they're right.
Right.
Just like I didn't bring the other one out, but like if you have like the very first issue of the very first Star Wars, it says something like you know, here's the story or whatever, the greatest space fantasy of all time. And for once, it's not bullshit. Like, they're right. They're saying, like, it actually is. So that's kind of cool. I think you have time to kind of get into it, but here's another cool thing is Return of the Jedi, the official collector's edition thing, which is just sort of like a book about, like, the making of and stuff. I'd love to get the other two. Anyway, sorry.
Well, what is it? What do you guys think? I mean, what is it about Star Wars that just captured the imagination of so many back then? What do you think that was? What about it? And it continues to capture the imagination of people to this day. I mean, what do you guys think? What do you think, Mike?
Well, it's just a classic story of good versus evil. Relatable characters, imaginative set pieces, creatures of unknown origin that were just fascinating at the time. It was 70s were kind of weird. You know, we were coming out of the Vietnam War and had supposedly landed on the moon thanks to Kubrick. You know, so the space exploration was very interesting, and then Star Wars came out, and Star Trek came back, and it just exploded again. I remember going to see Return of the Jedi in the theater. It was a Market Square Theater in Michigan City, Indiana. The reason I say that is because I found out later, even though I didn't know he was there, but Gene Siskel saw the film in that very same theater.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was pretty cool. But I remember walking out of that movie, I was, I think it was about 15, and everybody was talking about, oh man, that was amazing, but the only thing that sucks is we're going to have to wait 3 years for a new movie.
Yeah.
77, 80, 83. So, you know, everybody was convinced that there was a new movie coming out in 86. But then we had to wait until the prequels came out, and you can only imagine the disappointment.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to imagine it.
Yeah. I lived through some of it.
Watching our childhood be raped before
That's
us.
a change right there that just makes no sense. What the hell was George thinking there with the voice? Like it sounds like Ric Flair is getting
What
like
voice?
electrocuted in the balls. Really.
I could just see B-movie like.
That's a great mental image.
I could see B-movie like in the theater. He's just got like nachos in this hand, and soda in this hand. He's like, "What the fuck is this?"
No, my standard movie fare: Junior Mints, popcorn, and a Coke.
Nice.
That's a good
combination.
Well, Alec,
Does anybody have anything they want to add about why they think Star Wars captured the imagination of so many?
I think two things that come to mind. One of them being it's just a really, really good fantasy adventure movie. What's you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing just always catches people's eyes, I think. But I think it's that it was a sci-fi fantasy movie. Like how many sci-fi shows were before that were like, you know, made on a shoestring budget and were cheap and crappy that did well? Flash Gordon and all this stuff, right? But Star Wars comes along and it's you know, it's given the real treatment, like the real pedigree, and it just takes all that stuff and makes it that much better. It was
just revolutionary in a lot of ways for blockbusters, for the science fiction genre. It was a film that really, really broke new ground in a lot of ways. This kind of campy sort of, you know,
you can't just not mention the special effects.
It was really worked really well. It proved that it was marketable and that it was something that could be really successful. And I could see why they had their doubts, because if you've read some of the early screenplays of George Lucas, you can kind of see why. It's just kind of like a hard sell. But after its release, then there's so many copycats that try to come along and try to get their next Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think it's the movie that made sci-fi a lot more accessible, because sci-fi, you know, became a thing basically in the 50s, and, you know, from the 50s into the 70s, it was, you know, it picked up steam and people liked it, but it was still more of a niche. I think a niche genre, and only certain people were interested in. Star Wars, I think, original. Sorry, go ahead.
I think what started it maybe was Planet of the Apes. Like, that was the first start of it, because that was a huge hit, and there's like all these different sequels and stuff like that. But then came Star Wars, and then it really brought it into the mainstream, like you're talking about. That it really made it this really mainstream success, which is really sci-fi wasn't really like that. So then that's why you had things like in 2001.
It brightened up sci-fi a bit too.
Yeah.
The 70s is known for like long sort of bleak, depressing sci-fi.
Alien.
You think of like Logan's Run,
Yeah.
Silent
Silent
Runner.
Running.
They're all kind of like,
One.
it's like far in the future, things are going to be really bad, and we're going to have like endings on down notes. And this
Yeah, things are gonna suck.
And this
Yeah.
sort of brought the fun back into it, and a lot of it had to do with fantasy, right? Like right away, George Lucas, he considers it more fantasy than sci-fi. He said, He said, I want to say it's set a long time ago because I don't want people right off to see spaceships and think it's the future, and that that's like our future. It's like no, it's it's far away, it's somewhere else, it's way before us, And I think that was a good move too because all sci-fi before that is sort of set in the future, which kind of there's nothing wrong with that in and of itself. It's just that this way, completely removing it from us, allows it to, like, I don't know, just be a little more accessible and a little more interesting in some ways. Like, for instance, the downfall kind of Star Wars, and it goes on with these more movies, is that it does get overexposed and overexplained. Yeah. What's neat here is, like, he says, like, Obi-Wan, and he says, I fought in the Clone Wars with your father. We don't know what the fuck the Clone Wars are. We would speculate about what the Clone Wars were. It's just this little piece of history in this other world. So they did this great job over 3 movies anyway of building up this other world with its own history and its own vast things. And they only could hint and touch on things a little bit, and yet people
it was better that way.
Exactly. I mean, think about
even a cartoon called The Clone Wars.
Boba Fett is like a hugely popular character for like no reason other than people think he's
exactly. Cool. I mean, he does look cool.
He's like an
unimportant in these movies.
He's like an unimportant side character that shows up and does some stuff, but people like him so much that it just like all this like crazy speculation about who he is and where he came from and all this stuff, and then seeing it explained really wasn't very satisfying, was it?
He's not in the films. He's not a badass at all. It's just
he's just the one bounty hunter smart enough to follow the Millennium Falcon when it goes with the garbage.
I mean, what kid in the world didn't want to own a lightsaber, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a big part of the success too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How many films do you know of have box sets like this? I mean, this is pretty hard to hold this up right now because it's really, really heavy. So
is that leather bound?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Wow.
It's a leather bound Star Wars trilogy Laserdisc box set.
But everything was big for Laserdisc.
Yeah,
but
you could have a small Laserdisc set.
Not usually this big. No, I've had sets like this, but this is the.
Does that come with like a blaster and a lightsaber in it, or what?
No, I wish. But what's cool is it has the leather-bound stuff, but then the covers are so lame. I mean, look, it's so generic.
Oh, look, it's the Black Album.
It's just straight black. And then like nothing, and then
it couldn't be more blacker.
And then the discs themselves are like in these sleeves that look like space, so it's just like really just.
That's unfortunate.
It's like you can't have the artwork.
Especially when you have all that great Macquarie art.
I know you have great artwork, and then they're just like.
Even the poster art would have been better than that.
I know.
Yeah.
That's one disappointing thing about these. And by the way, these Laserdiscs are, and some of the other ones are the ones that pretty much Fox used and George used to release on those out-of-print DVDs. Just transfer the print to the DVD. But speaking of George Lucas, it comes with the George Lucas book, so that's something you normally don't see. A box set somewhere.
You could sell that for a mint right now.
Yeah, big time.
Probably, yeah. Put that on eBay.
There's actually a lot of them on eBay, and they don't go for super, super high prices.
Really? Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
I guess it's goes
but there's this little booklet, and this is the one that has. This set has commentary tracks, and behind-the-scenes footage, and all kinds of stuff. So it's something that every Star Wars fan like. It's a good addition to your collection, but it definitely does take up space. It's a beast. It's a total beast.
And one thing we didn't mention when I asked you guys about why this series captured the imaginations of so many, one big part had to be Darth Vader. I mean, he's just a super cool villain. Super cool villain.
Yeah.
I mean, he's arguably the best film villain there is.
Totally.
James Earl Jones, though, is a big reason why he's so cool and so badass. Like, have you heard the actual audio of David Prowse talking? It just it does not have the same impact.
Not intimidating. Not intimidating.
No. It just sounds like what it really is, like an actor in a suit instead of
Yeah.
I have a cool story about him. My mom was trying to get a ride home or she was trying to get a taxi cab or something in New York City, and she was on a payphone, or I think it was for the subway. She's calling someone, talking to someone, and then he walks up behind her and says, "Are you going to use that phone?" Or he says something like that. And James Earl Jones was right behind her. It was pretty funny.
Oh, lose my fucking mind, man.
Yeah, my head would explode.
I would have been like, "What's a phone?"
Say this is CNN. Say
it.
And then James Earl Jones got to play another villain, which maybe not as iconic, but in Conan, he played Thulsa Doom.
I think he's pretty iconic.
He was pretty awesome in Conan. That's the movie I think of when I think of James Earl Jones almost always, because you don't see him in this movie. It's just a voice.
You don't see him in the movie. It's just a voice.
Yeah, I always think of Conan.
Well, you don't think of him spitting a leopard in Exorcist 2?
No. I think of Conan.
I'm trying to forget that.
He's a lot like Anthony Hopkins. He kind of classes up every movie he's in.
I liked him in Alan Quartermain and Lost City of Gold.
I think of when I think of James Earl Jones, I think of Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
He was in the Sandlot
ever.
I liked him in the Sandlot.
Rambo, rep your city.
What?
Rep your city.
I don't even know what he's saying.
Rep your city. Iowa, son.
Rep your city.
Oh.
Something
I
happened
was
to
not
us on
city,
COD.
first off. I just meant state. I was a city.
I don't know what he's talking about either.
I don't get it. I don't understand any of this.
Yeah, remember, I'm also sick too, so...
I think it was an inside joke.
Even other people didn't know what you were talking about, so I guess I'm not bad off.
Yeah,
I wish you got used to my comments. Come on,
Orc and I and Pizzaw were playing COD the other day, and
Yeah.
we were playing with other people, and they were in. Orc always fucks with people when we're playing.
Mm-hmm.
If he sees somebody has a mic on, he'll just like,
Look how
"What's up,
brutal
player?
that he just sees his parents, you know, what he believes to be his parents, just burning skeletons just there. It's just
He's on to
Yeah, but we're talking about Call of Duty. That's more important.
more important than Luke seeing his parents.
Seeing
Seeing his family dead.
the burnt skeletons. Look at that charred skeleton.
What did they do to them?
I know.
Like when you see people get shot with a blaster, which is like a
They don't
laser
do that.
weapon, or hit with a lightsaber, they don't burn up in a pile of ash. They
I
must
guess
have
they've got
burned
like
them.
Imperial flame troopers.
They were like-
flamethrowers. To, like burn these people.
Hey,
alive.
like the flame troopers in the trailers for Force Awakens.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe they had to
that,
beat
but-
it from Doom.
Whatever it is.
What
Anyway,
happened
it's
to
pretty
Taken
gruesome.
the
This droid, like the torture droid, like that always creeped me out, like as a kid, like, and it's still now. I mean, you look at it like, oh, it's just a little ball, like with like a syringe or some shit, but
I'm like,
As
this
much
is
as I
kinky.
said that, like,
This is
just the
dark.
idea of a torture droid, though, is pretty.
As much as I said that Star Wars is a break from a lot of those other 70s sci-fi things, I have to say that like a lot of the stuff with the Death Star,
yeah.
especially with those Imperial officers, is actually just like them. Like those things with their dumb helmets look like just like pretty much any other like police force you saw in like a 70s sci-fi movie. So like they didn't completely let go of it, which is too bad. I mean, because I mean I don't know, but. It's not
Another thing I meant to mention is how bad. I mean, Vader can force choke. Like he can choke you without even laying his hands on you. I mean, that's pretty badass.
Throat hugs. They're throat hugs.
I was just hugging him.
burning Jawas.
Oh
Fucking
yeah, those
throat.
little critters jumping around, that was essential. We had to have those in there.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Slapstick robots, boy. Thanks, George.
Okay,
Now this
is
is
there,
not
like,
the entrance
there-
into the city.
so-
This is pretty cool.
I'm not even there.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
must
what's
have been
going
an added
on?
scene. Add a scene of slapstick robots. Where are these slapstick
So
robots?
B-movie Mike, bring us back to 1922. What were you doing in the theater?
Way before my time, sir.
Dude. Here's the see, on my version, you just see a droid go in front of the screen, which is fine. Not a CGI lump of shit.
I
that
only
walks
just caught up to
across
the critters
fucking
now. Now we're at the critters.
screen. That's a CGI lump of shit.
Oh yeah, here's
Oh,
the
God, those are
here's the
terrible.
droid slapstick. Yeah.
I watched this on Blu-ray the last time I watched it, and this all looks like crap, of course, on Blu-ray because it's just so
This
sharp.
is the
I'm watching it
worst.
on DVD right now, the DVD that comes in with this, and it looks a lot better because there's so much less resolution.
Oh, this looks so bad.
It still looks like crap, but it looks better compared to.
Oh man.
I don't know. I just don't have eyes like Jay. Like I know how to buy into what's on the screen, but Jay has no ability to do this whatsoever, as far as I'm concerned. Like Jay, can you name like 3 or 4 movies you think have good special
That's
effects?
cold.
CGI?
Yeah, like
Jurassic Park is great CGI.
what does?
Jurassic Park?
Okay, I buy that. But I mean, everything we watch we know is CGI. There's no way to not know because what's real is real and what isn't isn't. And it's all about blending it. But to you, it's just nothing's ever good enough, you ungrateful fuck.
It's just pointless intolerance, which I agree with Jay. I'm intolerant.
Yeah.
George's book.
You get that can't. I'm so far ahead of everybody.
It just proves that George Lucas
It's Star
is
Wars.
fucking
It's Star
perfect.
Wars. I'm in the cantina scene, and I love how the cantina scene has all these different like.
Let's have a
a
shitty
werewolf.
CGI Jabba the Hutt that looks like Apollo Dawn on his face.
I mean, just a little bit of my defense. This, I saw the original cut first, of course, and then seeing this piece of shit here. I mean, the practical effects are much better, man. It
I don't
translates.
think you need to defend yourself. A lot of people agree with you, Jay.
I'm a big fan of practical effects, but I mean, puppets could ruin a movie like Star Wars.
Yoda looked really bad in Episode 1, and that was a practical
puppet,
effect.
man.
So yeah.
Well, everything looks bad in Phantom Menace. Almost.
Hey, it's episode 1.
Oh, the best
I
character
love
of all
the
time.
crazy
That's
aliens
Rainbow.
in the cantina. They're just the craziest aliens. It's like he said to them, "I want you to come up with the weirdest shit you
Yeah.
can think
They
of."
have a werewolf.
Look at that guy.
With glowing eyes.
There's a guy he's just in like a spacesuit. They just randomly just like a cosmonaut. Shit got lost.
See, I mean, these costumes are great. They look.
Yeah.
I saw Satan was hanging out, getting his thing on.
Yeah, there
Rick
he is.
Baker
Well, I mean,
worked on it. Rick
It was
Baker
the
and a lot of
70s, so
other.
we got drugs.
This
Yeah,
cantina
there's
scene right here, a lot of makeup effects artists that would go on to have really illustrious careers worked on this sequence, worked on makeup effects for this scene. Rick Baker, Rob Bottin, a lot of these revolutionary makeup effects artists helped work on this film.
And there might have been LSD users.
Well, Rob
Definitely on
Bottin,
the-
you know,
definitely
he
the cocaine.
does so many crazy
It's never
chemicals.
explained why they don't like droids.
The
I mean,
cocaine.
droids are quiet and don't bother anybody.
It's
Surveillance.
He doesn't care that he's got like a fucking murderer's row here of like, psychopathic, violent killers.
Yeah, this guy with like a pig nose, and he's all like, "I don't like you."
And he's
Oh,
like,
because he doesn't like
these
the
guys
look on
are
his
supposedly
face.
half of them, like more than half of them are criminals. But we can't have the two well-behaved droids come in here. We
I
don't
think
like
the
their
reason
design.
is because they are criminals and they're afraid the droids will be like recording what they're doing.
Wow, there's blood.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe
And so they don't want surveillance in there because there's people in there that don't want to be found. I think that's why they don't want them in there because they don't know
Well,
who
some
owns
guy
it.
was
this is the
vaping
power
there.
of Star
Some guy
Wars.
was vaping already.
I know that guy's name is Hammerhead, and he has like a massive
Mhm.
You can buy his toy, and if you go to the Star Wars wiki, there's a massive fucking article about it. That's like the great thing about Star Wars. Like
Yeah.
some background character you see for half a second has a whole history and a whole thing about him, and like the hardcore fans know who he is and all about him.
Mhm.
Oh, here's Big Nose.
Yeah.
Maybe that one guy's wife had a sex toy, but it was a droid, and he didn't find out till later, so that's why he's pissed off about droids later on.
Yeah.
That could be it.
His wife cheated on him with a droid.
That'll be in the new special edition.
Yeah. Sex droids.
But as far as the discrimination against droids, I always really kind of related that to race relations.
Slavery. Yeah.
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 The place is
How
a
dare you
fucking
read into this?
menagerie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it.
There's like
That scene where he cut the guy's arm off, like, even as a kid, I remember, like, wow, there's blood. Like, that's pretty violent.
Yeah.
that's kind
That's
of the
something-
extent of the
Yeah.
violence in these
This is
movies.
a different kind of movie. It's bloody.
Yeah. You had these aliens playing the saxophone.
Yeah, the Cantina song was a really fun song. I really enjoyed playing it in school bands and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Han Solo.
that's a
original
classic
too.
song, man.
There he is.
I had the soundtrack too, man. We would just listen to it for hours.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, the special edition has a longer cantina scene, I think. So,
Yeah, you're gonna be behind us.
Get with the times,
Really
Blake.
good.
Fuck, man.
yeah. What?
You're like, no thanks. No thanks.
Why would I want to watch the special edition?
So that you
Well
could
played.
sync up with everyone.
No, I know, but I don't have the special edition, so.
I didn't want it either, man. Believe me, I got it for this show.
Did you know that
I
Han?
don't want it.
Did you know that
I was gonna
Han
say, you
Solo
can't
was
get
almost
like
played
the
by
non-special
Christopher Walken?
edition Blu-ray, can you?
You know, the reason I own this because it's the best version that's available.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
Where's
have to go
Lucas?
through some
Where's
guy
better?
behind the Burger King that did it in his mom's basement. Hey, I took out all the special effects.
Well, hey,
I don't have
I'm
any.
watching that
He's got
version
the hookup.
now, and I got it online, and I didn't
Version's
have
on
to get it from
Blu-ray.
some guy behind a Burger King, and it looks great.
I got these cheeseburgers.
This is the set from 2004.
Yeah.
That's what I've got.
Nice.
I mean, I'd like to have that on Blu-ray at some point, obviously.
I think
It's kind of sad that there are this many different editions. There's the special edition, the despecialized edition, the
There's the edition on the
Wild
Blu-ray
edition.
with the added, extra stuff, like when R2's gonna hide in the rocks.
I understand why somebody
Yeah,
would
two
want
rocks.
to see a despecialized edition. I understand why somebody would make one. But I'm just waiting for an official version.
Well, I am too, but for right now, all I got is my
And
specialized edition.
that very well might happen now that Disney owns the movies. That very well might happen.
But Fox owns the
Pretty sure that-
distribution rights, so that's gonna be the problem.
Yeah, I
Alright,
think
gonna get
George
a recall?
Lucas literally got every copy of the original film and put it in a vault somewhere. Like, and when I say that, I don't mean
Stuck them
to
straight
jest.
up his
He
ass.
wanted to burn them too. Really.
Yeah,
Like,
I
even-
don't think Disney has an actual, like, you know what I mean, clean cut of the film before special edition stuff was added.
Don't want to cut you off, I hope.
That's-
Go
I
ahead.
mean, Greedo does look
Go
like,
ahead,
like a plastic face.
it looks better. I'd rather have that in CGI.
I can't buy that he's real at all.
I think he looks pretty good on the version I'm looking at.
It looks fine to me.
You know the little ears?
Call me
Yeah.
a stick in the mud.
He called you worse than that.
You're way worse than that.
it was worse.
How did the rights
No,
get transferred
George.
for this?
I hope you go to the World of Warcraft
And
movie.
no, George.
Yell and
Greedo
throw
did
stuff
not
at people
shoot
the whole
first.
time.
That's absolute
Just
bullshit.
sit in the back and put your feet up and
They-
scream at the screen.
Han
and
shot
throw
first.
stuff.
None of this bullshit. Greedo shot first, or Greedo shot the same
And
time.
I hate how his
Yeah,
head
so
jumps to the left for like one frame to make
Yeah.
room for a Greedo shot. That just sucks.
Yeah. So the version
Oh, I
I
haven't noticed that.
the version I have is the compromise version where they both shoot at the same time.
I have the
Well,
same.
fuck
And
that.
you always see his head move. They just
Oh
both
shit, I
shoot.
missed
See,
it.
that's why I'm watching the despecialized edition. I don't want to watch that shit where Han doesn't shoot first. Come on.
Well, you know he does. So
Oh, I know, exactly.
In your heart of hearts.
Well, he does. I just watched the original version.
just like I know the events of Alien 3 never fucking happened. They never happened. You know, it doesn't bother that movie
I
might be there,
wish.
but they never
I
happened.
I wish.
Why is it so important again that Han doesn't shoot first?
I don't know. I was thinking that myself. I was thinking that myself.
George
Because
Lucas-
George,
Because it's his character.
George recently in an interview said that he wants Han not to shoot first because then if he shoots first, then he's a murderer, he's a killer, or he's
Trying
not
to
a
make
good
him look more like a
guy.
hero.
He didn't
So
want him to be that
But
ruthless.
he's
Then he would only shoot in self-defense. That's bullshit. I mean, that's
Yeah,
how-
that's bullshit.
I mean, that's how most of us feel.
he's a smuggler. That's what they have. He's a smuggler. He's a lousy scoundrel. Like that's the kind of
Yeah.
thing about the character.
And he knew that if Greedo got the chance, he'd shoot Han first. I mean, it wouldn't be a big
Yeah.
deal. So he,
Yeah, he beat him to the punch.
That's a
George
mistake.
got one-
That's a big mistake.
George is
Now in
still,
this version, he shot 1/1,000,000th of a millisecond after.
yeah. George still has a problem with that. Like in recent interviews, he's still like, Han didn't shoot first.
I'm
I
surprised.
can get what George Lucas has to say about anything right now.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he invented the character.
Are you guys to the Jabba part yet? This is absolutely the worst effect
I'm not there.
in the films.
No, I'm
just
I
about
don't
now.
think it's even
getting
in
there.
my version.
So
So
that's what I'm saying.
I'm
You're going to
there.
be behind us
I'm
even
there.
more because we have
I don't-
another
there.
like.
I'm there.
I think I got
I
the
don't know why I'm not
elephant.
there.
I got the Elephant Man guy that's following Han around.
I understand George wanted to do this, but how could he sign off on this
this.
effect? Because
Yeah,
this
this
Jabba
is
the
the
Hutt
worst.
looks like shit.
This is the
I
worst.
mean, it's like, George, how that looks like, I don't know, an alpha bill
What-
or a beta
what
bill
year
or
did it
something.
come
I mean,
out? Was it 97?
You can,
Yeah.
I think around the Walmarts, you can see some folks that look like that around here.
That's true.
No, this is me coming out of McDonald's.
and when he walks behind him and he steps on his tail, that just looks
It looks
it's
terrible.
horrible.
That's a
Because
new
they're rotoscoping. What they're
Yes.
doing is they're rotoscoping around the actor who played, and then it just doesn't translate well. Jabba doesn't even look like he's in the same scene
No.
as everyone
It
else.
doesn't even look really like Jabba from the third film. It just
No.
No, he
looks
doesn't.
like
His
him.
coloring looks off.
Yeah.
Coloring's off,
His
definitely.
coloring looks
He's
way
a younger Jabba.
yeah.
He just needs a little motorized scooter to ride around on.
Yeah, that would sell the Walmart thing.
Bits of cheeseburger stuck in his jowls.
Uh-huh.
He needs like a
Please, Ray.
GPC cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
So he's ready to star in a full-blown mole cop.
It's not even
That
like
would be awesome.
even when you try to set a movie like in its own world and stuff, like it's still like I mean, look at Han. He's still so 70s, like with his like shirt like open. You know, he looks like he looks like 70s era like
Crazy,
Luke
like, they
Cage.
wanted
All he
to do,
needs
like,
is a
Tom-
tiara.
They want to do like Tom Selleck, Kurt Russell audition for the role. Didn't get
Christopher
it.
Walken did too. Christopher Walken.
Can
did,
you
too.
imagine that? Christopher Walken as Han Solo.
I think it'd be awesome.
Funny, like I mean,
think
I've
you'll
seen,
Talk about
sure you've
the
seen
Millennium
thing where,
Falcon
like,
like that.
it's
Never tell me the odds.
I mean, I've seen the readings where it's like Kurt Russell as Han and William Catt as
Yeah,
Luke.
greatest
And, I mean,
American hero.
you
The
could
greatest
buy
American
both
hero
of
is
them.
Luke.
I mean, to me, you could buy both of them at least in the role.
Yeah.
They're at least the right type. I'm glad things worked out the way they did, but
Oh, you shot me.
You shot me.
'cause then we could have had a Han with a blonde afro.
I'm gonna
A
burn your
Han,
face
a
with
Luke.
a soldering iron.
Kurt
Yeah,
Russell
sorry.
Han could be pretty cool, and that would have helped him get out of the typecasting thing earlier in his career. But no, he was pretty much known as the Disney guy until John Carpenter, decided
Yeah.
I'm gonna put an end to
Yeah.
that.
Well, if he did that, he wouldn't have done the thing and Steve.
And then Escape from New York. So I'm glad that didn't happen.
Things worked out the way they should have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did a
So
ton of
rewarding to
Disney
like
shit.
wear that bulky armor and realize it does nothing to protect you.
I know this is jumping ahead, but when did Mark Hamill have his accident? His car accident?
Before Empire
Between the
Strikes
first
Back.
and second movie.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
why you can.
All right.
Smashed his
In the
face,
later
that's why his
films-
nose looks completely
In
different.
the later
Empire.
films, you can see
I don't
like
pick up
different
on that.
shots. Like they end up shooting him from a different angle a lot in Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, okay. Then.
I was just amazed at how young he looks in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of those kids that got rich and got popular and got a Corvette and decided to go drinking and
Well,
Hey,
Corvette Summer.
Yeah.
as you do.
At least he looks young. Like
He was in a film called Corvette Summer. So
yeah.
I mean, Fisher is what? She's like 19 and she looks like 38.
Oh, I don't think so. I think she looks great.
I didn't
don't
think she,
think
no,
fine.
I never think she looks bad. I just think there's certain actors and actresses that never look young. Jamie Lee Curtis is one. She was 19 in Halloween, and she in no way looked like a teenager at all. Just some
That's-
people were never young.
I thought she did.
I don't. I think she's. I don't know. Some people are just old for their age. Gene Hackman's another one. You watch the earliest fucking Gene Hackman movie you can find,
Yeah.
and he still looks like he's super old. Like
I agree
watched,
with that.
you
Oh,
watch
boy.
Gene Hackman in like Bonnie and Clyde, 1967, and he's still balding, and he looks
give
like
you
he's on
that.
the other side
Yeah.
of 50.
I'll give you that. I love Gene
I'll give
Hackman.
you-
He's
I'll
one of my
give you
favorite
balding.
actors of all time. But yeah, he does. He does
Yeah,
have that.
no, and I mean, it's not a criticism. I'm not, I like him too. I'm just saying, certain people just never really looked young, even when they were young.
Steve Martin. Steve
And it
Martin's
just-
another one.
Because
Just
his
the gray
hair
hair,
went white.
yeah.
His hair went white.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not. She doesn't look ancient here. I just mean it blows my mind. 19. Like, she doesn't resemble any 19-year-old I've ever seen in real life.
And only in this
Oh,
movie is the bun hairdo. Like that's the one they go with. You know, that kind of thing.
Sexy.
I mean,
That is
I was really enjoying it until Raiho sent me this fucking picture of the beast she is now.
Thanks, man.
Ruined
I'm
my
sorry,
night
too.
with that
Had to
shit.
set you straight.
well, she had alcohol. She had alcohol and drug abuse problems. and-
yeah.
I like what
She did
happened
not
to her
age well.
voice. She sounds so, like, burnt out, her voice.
Hey, I Princess Leia.
Oh god.
Like,
Oh,
she
she
sounds
sounds
like
like
one of
Rebel
those, like,
from
bitter
Spaceballs?
old, like,
Remember that?
DJs. Radio DJs.
Jesus Christ.
Idiots.
Just like one of
This
those
is
late
bad.
night radio DJs that, like,
stunt
talk to
doubles.
crazy people.
One of the things wrong with being like a sexy female and aging, it never works well.
Yeah.
for
Have you
ladies.
seen Kathleen Turner lately?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, it's
It's too
a lot
bad.
easier for men to do that.
She was one of those kids that was, born of movie stars. Tony Curtis. I think it was,
Okay, there's one of the best
whoever her parents were,
Star
Debbie
Wars.
Reynolds or whatever.
Debbie
But anyway,
Reynolds.
she had a really bad relationship and had a bad childhood, and
How
Nobody
old is
gets-
she in this movie, though? She's.
That's what I mean.
she's
She's 19 years old.
19.
The
She's a
actress is
teenager.
19.
Yeah.
No way. But
She's
I don't
barely legal.
there's Tarkin, who's actually one of the best villains
Yeah,
there is. But
he
he's
was
so
partying.
overshadowed by Darth Vader that no one cares. But Tarkin's a great villain.
Yeah.
I really
she
like
was
him.
19, but
Yeah.
she was partying with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi.
Yeah,
That's
so
the
she was-
bad
That's
She
why
was
she
doing
looks
a-
like she does now.
She was doing a lot of drugs.
She was in
A
Blues
lot of
Brothers, so
drugs.
yeah.
At least she lived through
Yeah.
it.
It's all Dan
I know.
Aykroyd's
Like
fault.
the like closest thing she ever did to like that is like her cameo in Scream 3. It's like pretty much like exactly what her life has been. When she's
The
talking
movie
about like the
Postcard
stuff
from
she's
the
been
Edge
through.
is based a lot on her life.
That was based on her autobiography, yeah.
I always love like the scene with the Death Star, like the guy who operates the laser. Like he has an Empire symbol like flat in the center of his forehead. It's like, is that necessary?
Branding. It's all about branding.
I don't know.
Well, that
right?
Randy-
Yeah,
yeah.
if you're gonna rule out how
Well, that
black an
Randall
empire,
Banner-
you gotta get
Yeah.
your symbol out there.
But I get Mike's point, though. Is there anybody else on the ship that does not work for the Empire?
I know, but do you
I didn't
need
think
the
so.
symbol like blazing like right on top of his forehead? Like it's just like
Well,
in case
I mean,
you didn't
This
get
is
it,
given his
he's an
company.
Empire.
Well, I mean, that just
gotta-
makes me think of that scene in Clerks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they talk about it, how ethical it was to blow up the second Death Star, considering a lot of the personnel probably weren't actually Imperial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like this. I don't know if you're even at this point, but I always like the chess scene. It was just so random, like monster chess.
Battle chess.
Yeah.
It's like
Monster
monsters in my
shit.
pocket.
Yeah.
It's to
Or
set up that
small
line about
soldiers.
Wookiees tearing people's arms out of their sockets.
I love how Chewbacca just like, oh yeah.
Yeah, he's like, that's right, I do. I
Well,
have.
he knows because of the special, because of the holiday special. Remember they tried to do the same thing with like another game, and then like the
I have
Wookiees
purged
played.
all memory of the holiday, and I don't know why you haven't.
We
It's
should do a
unforgettable.
commentary of that.
It's so
Because the
bad.
holiday special is
It's
worse than 100
unforgettable.
prequels.
I tried to do a commentary with me and my friend, and with Matt and another friend of mine, and I tried to post it, but George Lucas or somebody like Lucasfilm like blocked it, so I couldn't even.
You're just talking about the film, they blocked it?
Yeah, no, I had the footage from like way back
Oh.
in the '70s with the commercials and everything, and we were watching it with the commercials,
Oh, that's cool.
and it just.
Well, what's funny is the Star Wars prequels on YouTube.
I know.
So you can watch those, folks. Have fun.
No one wants to.
One of my memories, like that I always remember from Star Wars, was the scene where Luke is trying to use the lightsaber with that weird floating sphere thing
It's a
flying
remote.
around,
Yeah, that's what's going on.
and then he puts on the helmet later. Oh, here's Han talking about the Force, and then like in the Force Awakens, it's all true.
Sure.
Han looks like he's about
Well,
to do
yeah,
a rail off the.
But I mean, at
Yeah.
this
He's about
point,
to just-
about to blow a rail
Jedi
off the equipment
completely died out. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the point. It's like
Sadly.
nobody who knows anything about the Force is like left alive except for Yoda and.
Flash shield down. I can't even
Exactly.
see.
Which is why it kind of bothers me about the new ones where he says it's all true, because it's like they already forgot again.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's
It
like, boy,
kind of
that was
came
quick.
back in a really big way in the form of Luke.
Luke looks so goofy and just like such like a. He looks like such a doofus with that Blast Shield helmet on. It's just like
Wasn't his idea.
yeah. This is. I always thought he looked like
Yeah,
Rambo,
looks
do
like
you
he's
remember,
seriously
the
part of
helmet's too big for him.
Do I remember what?
Do you remember the first time you saw Star Wars, and do you remember which film you saw first?
I believe I saw the three of them on the original VHS when I was a kid. And I believe I saw them in order. So the original CBS Fox Video.
Yeah, that's
Tapes.
how I saw it. Yeah.
And I liked Star Wars. I mean, I liked the original three, the original versions. But they're never, like, even as a kid, I just liked them, and that was it. Like, I was just one of those guys that there's probably 1,000 movies that I like more than the Star Wars films. But at the same time, I still like the Star Wars films. That was around the time I would just get into more like action, horror, other stuff. Because like, I respect Star Wars, I appreciate Star Wars, and I think they're good movies. It's just, they didn't blow my mind. I don't know, I was just, like, as a kid, to this day, I was getting more into Aliens and Rambo 2, and like those were more my kind of movies. But even when saying that, I respect Star Wars for what it did. And but even like if I'm talking about George Lucas, I appreciate more. I'm a bigger Indiana Jones fan.
Yeah.
Than Star
Well, I am
Wars.
too. In a lot of
I am
ways.
too, actually.
But
I
Star
like
Wars,
Star Wars, but
it deserves the respect it gets. But it's just I can't be honest at saying, oh, it changed my life or anything, which I know it did for a lot of people, and I understand why. Just as a storytelling that is from the olden days of the fairy tale, but at the time it's brought with the genuine state-of-the-art technology that people could relate to and also be in awe, and thus when you're a kid you had not seen anything before unless 2001, but 2001 is such a total opposite 180 of feel than the Star Wars movie that as a kid you're not watching 2001, you're watching Star Wars for the adventure aspect. And so while again I like the films and I could probably count on one hand that I've seen all the Star Wars films, I respect what it did. But I mean, I could probably, I grew up more with, I joke about Kroll, but I grew up with Last Starfighter and those movies more, even though I saw these as a kid. Because it's for me, it's just, even if I only saw Star Wars like 3 times, it feels like I've seen it 50 times by how everyone talks about it. And at the same time, it's understandable why people talk about it, but it's almost as if I've seen it more times than I've actually seen it.
yeah.
So I don't know what, I know it's a weird thing, but it's nothing to take away from the movies. I mean, I still remember, we're now, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I get that.
No, I was
Sorry, go
I was going to say I totally get that. I mean, I'm right there in the same boat with you. My first Star Wars experience was Return of the Jedi on the old CBS Fox tape. A friend of the family gave it to me. I watched it. I really liked it. I went back and I watched the other movies, but I was more, if it was sci-fi, I wanted horror sci-fi. You know what I mean? I was more of a horror guy.
Yeah.
I love the films. I love the films. I think they're great. I can totally understand why they are what they are, but I've never been able to count myself as like one of those big Star
I'm not
Wars.
really either. I interesting enough, like I honestly have kind of been a bigger Star Trek guy. Like even I grew up watching the Star Trek films a lot. I watched Star Trek 2 and 3 and 4, a lot of that, more than I did Star Wars. But I still like Star Wars. I still like the original trilogy a lot. It's just I watched Star Trek more, and like Matt, other movies like The Flight of the Navigator and stuff like that when I was a kid. So
What's funny about it though is like what I said at the beginning of this show, I got chills.
Like I watched Spaceballs more than I watched Star Wars. I really did.
Well, yeah, Spaceballs rules. There's just something about, I think there's just something about the series in and of itself that to me is very, just very powerful. There's just something very powerful about it. So like even watching
It's like a
Yeah,
legend.
even like watching the trailer for like The Force Awakens. As soon as that John Williams score hits, I just kind of get chills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Star Wars is bigger than just a movie. You know what I mean? It's not just a movie.
It's a phenomenon.
Exactly, it's a phenomenon. Exactly.
It's kind of like how I look at Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters or films like Back to the Future. Those films are also phenomenons to me. I mean, those are movies that have that big fan base like this film does. That it's become such a big part of the cultural lexicon that it's hard not to encounter something or someone that knows something about these movies. Like even in other countries, it's really gotten that big.
Well, and just the fandom in and of itself around Star Wars. There's no other film or film series that has that level of fandom. Maybe the Star Trek is pretty high up there, but Star Wars is just like on a whole other level to me.
I think so.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes feel, this is not a knock, that the fandom is too much?
Yeah, absolutely.
The fandom it's extreme. There's a lot of extreme fandom.
Yeah.
I think that's why we're seeing such a backlash. I mean, I don't like the prequel movies, but I can at least pick out some things about them. But I just mean, it's crazy. People love something that much, and then they're using words like I don't know. To me, it's too strong to talk about. It's too strong to talk about the prequel movies.
You raped my childhood. That's taking it too far. I mean, come on, really.
And your absolute shit in all this. I'm just like, holy fuck! What is
I think they're bad movies.
Drop off.
They have some aspects of them that work, but there's not enough to make them a good movie. But
I mean, there's just no fan base like that has such a relationship with
I think
George Lucas. Most people don't really even care about George Lucas. Most of them, it's like some sort of fucking fluke. George Lucas is some fruitcake that got lucky and made some stuff we love, and all he's done since is try to ruin it, and we hate him. I'm sorry, but that's just not the reality of it.
It kind of is. I mean, he started this. I mean, really, he created a lot of stuff, but him coming out now and saying, my films, these are my movies, grow up, kids. And I don't like that attitude. That's a shitty attitude to have, and I can see why fans are pissed at him because of that.
Yeah, that's too far. I'm on both sides.
He's got an ego the size of the Death Star right now, and he's just like, oh, you never liked my special editions, screw you. Like, those are the versions you'll remember.
Well, the fact that he doesn't want you to watch the originals anymore.
I know, yeah.
He wants you to watch whatever bullshit he's created since.
I know, and he's the one, and those are these films.
The same as pretty much every creator out there.
Nobody
wants to believe the best thing they did was 35 years ago. They want to believe.
No creator has ever gone as far as George Lucas has. No creator's ever done that.
I know, but I think that's part of the fandom pushing him. I'm not going to stand up for him. I'm just going to...
I don't know why the problem is there's nobody to tell him no, George. You're making a bad decision. There's no one to tell him that. Everyone around him says, yeah, go for it, dude, and with huge boners up in the air.
That's why I think this original trilogy was so much better, is because you had people like Lawrence Kasdan, his wife, and people on the set. I mean, even Harrison Ford, with lines in this movie, was like, George, you can't expect to write this and expect me to say this shit. He's like, you can write this, but you can't expect me to say this.
Well, that's what saved this movie in comparison to the new ones, because no one stood up to him and said, I need to deliver this differently, whereas I think these actors did. Because some of the lines in this are just as cheesy, but they managed to nail them.
Because they're not taking this seriously. Somebody like Harrison Ford's a good enough actor to know what a situation calls for. He knows when dialogue isn't amazing, but he also knows the right way to do it.
He knew about Han Solo's character in Empire Strikes Back, and he was like, no, it's not I love you, too. It's I know. Like, why would Han say I love you? Like, that doesn't...
That's one of the things that backfires so horribly in the prequels, is that you got most of the actors, not all of them. I'll actually say some of them did the best they could.
I think Ewan McGregor did fine. Ewan McGregor is the one that kind of came out
saving grace.
Let's not do this.
I'd say Ewan McGregor's the saving grace.
Let's not even go down this road.
Ewan McGregor's good in all three.
Hazel, I am your daddy.
But I mean, the other side of it, is that we've got
So
actors
bad.
taking these lines way too seriously. Like Harrison Ford knew not to take certain lines too seriously, and he delivered them for what they called for. But now we've
Yeah.
got but in the prequels, most of these actors are just so in awe they're in a Star Wars movie. They don't
Right.
understand cheesiness or a situation, and that's why we have somebody like Samuel L. Jackson going, "You think this?" Huge pause.
Yeah.
Boy is the one. Like, oh my god, I want to rip my hair out every time I see that
Yeah.
Jedi Council. That Jedi
Yeah.
Council just makes me want to vomit, and he's the worst part of it. All I can think is he strode onto set and said, "I'm Samuel L. Jackson. You have to have me in your
I'm
movie."
Sam Jackson, motherfucker.
I mean, he bitched and
Yeah,
complained
Sam
that he
Jackson.
remember he has a purple lightsaber because he wanted. That's not George Lucas.
Yeah.
That's Samuel L. Jackson. My lightsaber has to be different from anybody else's because I'm.
I like the purple lightsaber. I did like that.
Yeah,
I
do
think
like
it's
that.
bullshit. Who the hell is Mace
course.
Windu? He's not important. He's just one of many Jedi at the time.
For years, I thought this little robot was like a barber robot. Like it looked like just clean up hair. That's what it is. They just clean up shaven hair and then
A Roomba.
I mean,
Roomba.
Space
That's what it
Roomba.
is.
Space
Just
Roomba.
Space Roomba.
you talk about phrases like, George Lucas raped my childhood, stuff
That's
like that.
too
I mean,
much. That's too
It's-
much.
I can really relate to that though. I mean, I don't use words that harsh or anything.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I can see
of
why people
course
are
not,
pissed.
but-
I'm pissed, but I still.
I was a huge fan, and you say Star Wars, I go back to when I was 8 years old in my Star Wars underoos, watching this shit on a tiny little screen and being transformed to that world. And then
Yeah.
I go see, first the editions he puts out, then I go see the prequels, and it's just not the same. I mean,
Yeah.
I just like to
But,
pretend
I mean,
those
it almost
movies
never
don't exist.
He
I
wanted.
regardless of the
he tried
situation.
to ask someone else to direct the prequels, but no one. Probably they read the script and was like, "No, the script sucks. I'm not touching this with a 10-meter cattle prod." But he asked people like Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg, and they all turned him down. And I think he should have just had somebody else write the screenplay because he's not that great of a writer, to be honest.
He's like a lot of writers that I sort of like. Not just in movies, but like
He's got a good.
There's good
He's got a
ideas.
good, good ideas. He's a good idea guy.
Come up
But
with good concepts, but they don't write the stories or dialogue or anything well. They need somebody else to do that.
he hired Willard Hayek and Gloria Katz to write 30% of the dialogue for this movie that we're watching. Like he didn't even write all of it. Like he even admits, like I can't write dialogue very well. Then why are you writing a screenplay? I mean, that's the thing. If you can't write dialogue very well, then why are you writing a screenplay?
Well, I don't know. Again, how can I pick on that? I mean, I see so many movies from any era, from back then, right now, coming out, and the
I
dialogue
know,
is
but
horrendous.
I know, but it's like you should be right. You should hire somebody else to write the dialogue then, or
I mean, how about the dialogue in the Fast and Furious movies? I mean, that's some high-end stuff right there, huh?
Well, that's over the. Those movies are over the top.
But a lot of people would argue so are Star Wars.
Yeah, but not to the extent of the Fast and Furious films.
Because, I mean, you can either listen to Leia say, Marv Tarkin, I recognized your foul stench as soon as I came aboard, and be amused by it and think that's Star Wars, or you can shake your head and go, that's fucking stupid, you know?
Yeah.
I recognize
But you
your
can't
foul
like
stench.
it and then pick on other stuff later.
Yeah.
You either do or you don't. Like, people get too choosy and picky with this sort of stuff.
Well, you can like or dislike whatever the hell you want for whatever reason you want. I mean, there's nothing about being picky or choosy. It's
Sure.
just.
Yeah, but there's
I mean,
being
that's-
hypocritical and stupid.
Who cares about being hypocritical? Everyone's hypocritical about something every now. I mean, unless it's something like George Lucas, for instance. If it's an opinion, I mean, especially on a movie, like. But when you have like George Lucas saying things like, "Oh, film is, should not be messed with, and to mess with it is like being a barbarian," and then later on
Messing
doing
with
the
it all
same
he
shit,
does.
and then he does the same shit himself.
Damn.
I mean.
Well, would there be the same level of excitement over The Force Awakens if Lucas was involved with it?
Is anybody
No.
here? Wait a second. Wait. Is anybody here excited about The Force Awakens?
I'm curious
I am.
about it because of the trailers. The most
Who
recent
is- who
trailers I
isn't?
saw sold me a little bit. The first few teasers I thought were not very good, but the international teaser The international trailer was pretty good, so I'll probably give it a look, but I'm not like super
Okay,
psyched.
who's genuinely excited? Piz,
Me! Jesus
Raiho,
lightsabers! Fuck yeah, dude! Christ compels you!
anybody else?
I don't really know enough about it to get excited yet. I want to go into it cold.
Okay.
And-
I mean, that's
and-
sort of how I am. I want to go into cold. I've tried to avoid stuff about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm excited in that I want to see it, but if I'm being like
Well-
honest, I have no faith it's going to be any good. I think it's probably
I
going to be
agree.
worse than the prequels. I
I
think,
agree.
I think we're going to
it'll-
look at worse than the prequels.
I think it's going to be
Put
a
it
film
this way.
with too much fan service. That's
Yes.
what it kind of looks like in the trailer.
I think so too. I think they're just, they want to distance themselves so much from the prequels that they're going to like do that kind of stuff and actually come up with a worse product.
It's going to be like it's going to remind me of episode like this. It's going to remind me of Star Wars. It's going to be like the plot already sounds similar. I saw a poster. It looks like they're doing another planet destroyer, like a Death Star thing. And I'm like, really?
It's
Another
Well,
planet?
yeah.
Another planet destroyer that looks like a planet?
Put
Like,
it this way. If it was written and directed by George Lucas, would you even want to go watch it? I think if it was written and directed by George Lucas,
I don't know.
think the fans would
Also,
still be
I mean, this is-
the fans would still be forgiving because they're Star Wars fans. They're so fanatic that I think even if George did do another one, they'd be like, "Well, I hate the prequels, but okay, it's Star Wars."
I mean, I'm kind of that way too, because I mean, the fact is, I know this isn't a majority opinion, but I mean, I really don't like J.J. Abrams or have much faith in him at all for this. But I'll go see the movie. But I think
it
J.J.
looked-
Abrams
from the
is a
trailers, it
horrible
looks a
choice.
lot better than a lot of his other films. There's not a lot of lens flares. It's shot on film.
I don't mind lens flares. That's not my idea of criticizing a director. If people say, "Oh, I didn't like the Star Trek,"
Well,
films,
it
they're
gets
full of
really
lens flares."
distracting, especially in a movie like Total Recall. I know J.J. Abrams didn't direct it, but the director was really inspired by J.J. Abrams.
But I
There's
mean,
lens
Total
flares
Recall-
like in every scene. That's just distracting.
Oh, come on. Total Recall is a piece of garbage. It doesn't matter if it had lens flares or not. I mean, it's a terrible... Does
It's a
anybody think
terrible movie.
is it a
It's a
good
terrible remake,
Is it a
but
good remake?
the
Does
lens
anybody think
flares
so?
really don't help much at all.
No, they don't help, but I wouldn't put them... I'd have like 50 things to say about it before I got to the lens flares.
I like the Star Trek films. I like J.J. Abrams' Star Trek films.
I like
I-
them.
I think they're fine, but...
I liked Into Darkness because of Peter Weller, I think. I think it's the Peter Weller effect, because I'm such a big fan of Peter Weller
All
that,
right,
like, seeing Peter Weller on
rest in
the...
peace.
Rest
sir.
in peace.
Rest in peace.
We
May
pull
his
out some of my
memory be
fire
cherished
for Peter
forever.
Weller.
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know.
Well,
I also
so
grew
that-
up. I also grew up in a world where Star Trek and Star Wars were so polarized that
Peter
the idea
Weller's
of
still alive.
somebody directing both is like sacrilege. So that kind of bothers me too.
This was my favorite scene when I was a kid.
Mine too,
This-
actually,
yeah,
now
this
that I
is a
think
good
about
scene.
it, yeah.
As far as my excitement for the new film, I am tempering my expectations, but it's a return of the original cast, or at least the principles of the original, and that to me is enough to make it better than the prequels. Now, whether or not the movie's going to be actually better, don't know. We have to wait and see. It looks like it's at least going to be better than the prequels. Do I think that they could ever make another Star Wars movie that would be better than the originals? No, it's impossible.
No, see, that's the thing. It's like
Lightning in a
Indiana
bottle.
Jones and King of the Crystal Skull.
But
I
I'm
mean,
not
I love
expecting
the
it to be
film.
better. That's just it. I'm just expecting it
Yeah.
to be better than what I saw before, and I think it's going to succeed at that.
I hope that too. But if it's just mediocre, I still don't think that's enough. Because what's the point of just making another mediocre or okay Star Wars movie?
Because of cash money.
I know what.
Nailed it.
You know what?
Really?
Honestly, from the point that this movie comes out, it's going to be out December 18th, 2015. We will not go more than 2 to 3 years without a Star Wars movie for probably 25,
And
30.
that's a
I
problem.
know, they
Disney's
stopped
gonna milk
bankrolling.
this
It's
cow.
gonna be a bunch of fucking.
Disney's gonna milk this cow, and then clone the cow and milk it again, and then it's
Honestly,
going to...
If I'm gonna use the word excited, I'm much more excited about Star Wars Rogue Squadron or whatever the hell it is than
Rogue One.
the Rogue One than Force Awakens, because maybe they'll at least try to do something original,
But
because it's
I
not
actually-
completely tied into the main story. To me, that's actually a less offensive idea. If they were gonna keep Star Wars stuff, do some spin-off stuff, but now we're getting
Yeah.
core stuff, bringing back the
But
original.
that's why I don't get the arguments some of these Star Wars fans are making, saying like, well, you should just embrace the hype and embrace and see the movie and be excited for it because it's another Star Wars movie, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And I'm like, no, it's not, Jeremy Jahns. It's not a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Like, there are going to be tons of Star Wars sequels and tons of Star Wars movies after this movie.
I
Like,
know.
what the hell are you talking about?
The
I mean, if you're excited,
1997
you should be.
re-release felt like a once-in-a-lifetime thing to me, and now I realize, you know.
The prequels felt like, watch this prequel to the watch the episode 1 prequel trailer, and then watch like the teaser trailer for like the Force Awakens. Like, they had the same similar sort of feel. It was just like, oh, it's epic, it's big, Star Wars, new Star Wars. And I don't like it when people say, you should just be happy that you have a new Star Wars movie. Oh, I shouldn't be happy that the movie could suck. I mean, could not be good. I mean, I want it to be good. I should be happy that it's a good movie.
Fanatics of any kind are a pain in the ass. It doesn't matter what the subject matter is.
I know.
It's the moderates that are actually cool to talk to.
Yeah.
Was there? Sorry, go ahead.
I actually like
What,
J.J.
Matt?
Abrams, some of his stuff. If he does what for Star Wars what he did for Star Trek, I'll be happy. Because I thought he did a pretty good job with the Star Trek films.
Well,
I
that's good.
enjoyed
I'm
him.
not calling
I thought he really, the Bones character and the whole relationship between the three characters. I thought he brought back enough. Although he did very wisely spin it off in a different direction. What some people don't like the new timeline thing.
Of the timeline thing, that's
Cleared him up. The only thing I didn't like about Darkness was that I thought it for putting it in a new timeline where anything can happen. Why would you repeat something that already happened?
yeah.
So
Why
they
would
bring
the
back
Khan
Khan
again?
and they do that? And I thought that's why you spun it off in a different direction so you wouldn't have to do that.
But I like Cumberbatch as Khan. But the
Yeah, he
thing
was
that I
great.
didn't like about that was the whole stuff with instead of Spock at the end trying to save, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one.
The way they reversed it, where
Dude,
Kirk
the one-
died
the way
instead
they
of Spock,
reversed it with Kirk,
they should have never even been in the movie.
that didn't work at all. Like, that was really.
Well, the whole relationship between Uhura and Spock. I mean, because Spock doesn't have emotions, he doesn't date. You know what I
That
mean? So-
doesn't make.
But
sense
it was
to
an
me.
alternate universe type thing, so I just kind of blew off those small things.
I was okay with Spock kicking Khan's ass. I know a lot of people were pissed at that, but I didn't mind that. But I didn't like the whole.
Well,
Okay,
it was
the
well
love
established
and
in the
all this
original
other
series
stuff.
that Spock did have hyper strength compared to regular humans.
Yeah, but people
So-
were upset that he got angry, and I'm like,
Well, he's got a human half. Isn't that like going
Yeah.
back to the,
I know.
the original
Well,
show?
I know,
The whole
in the-
point
in
was
the show that it was all
he
about
could
his
have-
struggle.
Yeah, it was that
Yeah.
he doesn't usually show emotions, but he does actually have them. I mean, even I know that, and I am far from a Star Trek, fanboy.
I know.
Let's veer away from Star Trek. Let's go back to Star Wars. Stingray, tell us about. You talked a little while ago about being the 8-year-old wearing your Star Wars underoos, and that got me very interested. So continue that discussion.
Oh, no, Jared.
So, do you remember what was the first Star Wars film that you saw, Jay, and what kind of impact did it have on your young life?
Well, strangely enough, I actually saw Return of the Jedi in the theater, but I don't remember it at all. And apparently my sister was really scared for some reason, so we had to leave. But so I was present, so I was there, in spirit. But no, actually, I watched them. It was probably on television when I was able to, give them all a watch, all the way through. But in my teenage years, I became a huge fan. And, I just developed a lot of, nostalgia love for this stuff, and I think that's why we all get really personal when it comes to this stuff, because we are so attached to it on a level more than just I like this movie. It's, it was a part of my life, I was a pretty big nerd in high school. I was the president of the sci-fi club for 2 years.
Hmm.
That was right
Wow.
when the prequels were coming out, so it was a fun time.
Wait, you were what? For 2 years?
I was president of the sci-fi club at school.
So what did you talk about the Sci-Fi Club? I'm honestly interested because I never had that in the school.
Basically, just a bunch of nerds getting around watching sci-fi movies. I mean, it
That's
didn't
cool.
really,
That's
didn't
very
really
cool.
realize into.
I was the king of the
What
chess
we're
club. You got me beat, bro.
That's still really cool, though. I think that's really cool.
I do too.
But no, it was just a lot of fun, you know. And
Going back to the whole
I,
thing that you talk about with the.
Hear what he has to say.
Go ahead.
Let me finish. Go ahead, Jim.
I was going to say I used to do the model kits. I used to get all the model kits, and I had most of the ships from these movies that I put together and painted and all that stuff.
That's cool.
But,
Yeah.
So it was it like your intro to the world of sci-fi, and that is what turned you on so much to sci-fi to become the sci-fi president of your school?
Definitely. I mean, this is really a film that younger folks can appreciate a lot more than they can appreciate Star Trek. That's something that you need to be a little bit more cognitively advanced to be able to appreciate. I was a huge Star Trek nerd too.
I don't know. I appreciated Star Trek a lot when I was a kid, and but.
I was big in
And
the
I
Next
was
Generation.
technically, because of my Asperger's syndrome, I was technically 3 years behind my normal, brain development. So.
I do like that with all the
But,
extra stormtroopers.
I love that with Han Solo.
Star Trek was not to veer back on the Star Trek topic very much, but Star Trek I just could never get into. Like my mom was a huge Next Generation fan, and I would watch some of those with her, but I just in the movies I just couldn't get into those. I do like the J.J. Abrams ones, but I'm
the same way.
I don't know.
Like, I got nothing against Star Trek or its fan base or anything like that, but it doesn't appeal to me personally because it's a bit too sterile, I guess.
It's an
a bit too
acquired
clean.
taste, just like some people feel Star Wars is an acquired taste.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just saying the difference for me is, like, with Star Trek, I think the thing it didn't grab me was because it just sort of presents, like, this idealized future that, like, almost seems sort of boring to me. I was like, it's like we've done, like, way too well. Like, our technology is so far advanced.
Yeah, but
society doesn't even seem
though.
to have problems. Like, nobody even has jobs or works for money. It's like...
That'd be awesome.
That to me is like, that's socialism, man. I'm a capitalist. I can't hang that way. I can't do that.
Yeah, everything is
yeah,
so too
but
sterile.
at the
Like,
same
everybody's
time-
like working on ships and they have like these really neat uniforms. Like, none of that is the type of thing that would appeal to a person like me.
No, me either.
Too homogenized.
Yeah, I like the show, but I never fantasized about being one of them. I just like the adventures they went on.
Oh yeah, well, same here. I mean, I don't mind the idea of working, not
And I
for
think
money, because money has been a problem anyway. So it's one of those things that if it could just, that's why a lot of advancements aren't made is because of money. So that's why
I know, and like, I mean, that's what I mean. It removes several things. I don't think there's much religion going on in Star Trek either, right? Like, that's another
But,
thing that, like, at least humans have, like,
money
eliminated.
is the carrot in front of the horse. It's the rabbit in front of the dog. It's the reason, we want to better ourselves. You take away that purpose, and then what are we? It's like we're just going to sit around and stare at a wall because we don't have motivation to do something. We don't want to make ourselves better because we
just
can't.
start doing those
Or
things.
fuck
So why do
bees
you
with
need money
sex
to
slaves.
do those things? Seriously, just start making these advancements. Start doing these things. Start helping each other out. Start, working on these, stuff. I mean,
Like, the original series appeals to me a little more because it's a little more, like, Kirk's got his, like, rough and tumble to
I'll
it,
say one
and it's
thing
got,
about
like,
the
it's,
prequels,
like,
going back to Star Wars, about the prequels, the lightsaber fights I thought were a little bit better in a lot of
Well,
ways.
This lightsaber fight is quite embarrassing. I mean, there's no way I can cover that up. It doesn't matter how much I love the movies. It doesn't matter how great they are or nostalgic. They're like,
These are two old Jedi. They're very old
This
Jedi.
is another thing too, though, is like he kind of threw this out the window when he made the prequels. But in the original movies, he told them to pretend they were using a heavy broadsword.
Broadsword, yeah.
Like, so they acted like they were carrying great big broadswords, and that's why these fights are like this. And then he just abandoned that.
I'm glad he abandoned it.
I'm glad he did too. I'm just
Don't you
saying.
I mean, I like lightsabers that are fluid. And, the idea that they're heavy broadswords kind of like takes away their cool factor.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's better in the prequels for sure. I just meant you can't.
Yeah.
I think another thing, when it comes to people, like when they're talking about, their passion for the series and all of that, and it's a part of their life, I think that's why they're so upset with George Lucas, is because I can't think of any other filmmaker that has just done so fucked things up so badly with his fan base.
Oh,
He
yeah,
doesn't
absolutely.
respect them. He doesn't
Well, he
appreciate.
shits on his
Nobody-
fans.
You're losing
And
the polarizing relationship.
who do you know that you could think of that even Steven Spielberg doesn't do this? As much of a schmuck as he can be, like with the E.T. DVD release, like he had that shitty recut version with bad CGI, but on that same DVD he had the original version.
And the walkie-talkies.
Yeah, but he had the original version on the same DVD without the walkie-talkies and without the CGI.
He at least
And-
gave you
but-
the choice.
And it was remastered, too. It wasn't like what George did with the original trilogy where, here's a shitty Laserdisc port that doesn't even look good in anamorphic widescreen on your, you put that on your TV right now, it looks horrible. It looks so bad. And he made it limited, and he also made it a bonus disc on, on his special editions. Like, that's kind of insulting. It's like, oh, they're bonus discs. They're extra. The special editions are the ones that are the premier ones you should get. The originals are just an extra. And it was just insulting to see somebody that is so unappreciative of the films that made them who they are today. Without these movies, the way that they are, and the way that they were originally, George Lucas would not be a billionaire. He would be stuck directing direct-to-video movies, trying to pay the bills. So it's just, that's what's so frustrating about this situation.
Spoiler alert, Obi-Wan just died. Moment of silence. The fields.
Oh yeah, we know that. Yeah, he died.
I like how Vader's surprised that he just disappeared.
I'm surprised because it's never really been fully explained to me. He and Yoda disappear, so I thought, good Jedi disappear. But Qui-Gon didn't disappear, so,
Well, in the
His
prequels,
character was unnecessary.
in the prequels, Yoda says to Obi-Wan, someone from our past has come back and found a way to transcend, and it's Qui-Gon. So he teaches them to do it.
Right.
And then it's all the other changes too that he made too that's insulting to people. I mean, especially fans of the franchise. I mean,
Midi-chlorians.
I mean, well, with the special editions,
No.
with the special editions, you got stupid shit, and even with the recent Blu-ray release, like with Vader and Return of the Jedi, go no, it's really unnecessary, stupid.
That might be the
dumb
worst moment in
changes.
Star Wars.
You know what I love about this movie?
That
Is we just had a crazy action sequence that could have been the climax of the film, but it's not.
No, it
We're
isn't.
now gonna have a whole space battle.
Dogfight.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It just goes from it starts off kind of slow. It follows the droids. You're kind of like, no movie would ever do this anymore. No movie would ever follow these droids sauntering around in the sand, trying to figure out what's going on. But you have this
that's
slow
actually
build
good
and then-
storytelling, and it's
It's
from
called the
their
build-up.
point of view,
It engages you in a way that a lot of other films don't because it's from these droids. Like you never really see a film that often that follows droids around. Usually it's just our heroes.
But it does
Or
open with that
humans.
grab you moment when they board the ship
Oh,
and the
yeah.
stormtroopers come in and Darth Vader for the first time, and that really pulls you in.
Well, it starts
Then it
literally
does kind of slow down for a little bit, but
it's like boom. There's
It's
a
entertaining as fuck.
So you got this fun space battle here, but even after this space battle, it's not over yet because then you still got the climax of the dogfight, the space dogfight, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just like boom, boom, boom.
And I think George's direction in this is pretty good for the most. I don't think his direction is terrible. I don't
think he's fine as a director.
I don't think he's a hack director. I just think he just didn't direct for a long time with the prequels.
well, I think somebody said before that
out of
he had
place.
people tell him no when he first made this
Yeah.
movie because nobody knew. But when he came to the prequels, he was God.
Exactly, that's the
Nobody dared
problem.
tell him anything.
It wasn't until after it was already cut when they're like, George, the edits, and this is not, and then the guy just gave up. He was just like, well, and even George was like, and the guy the producer is watching it, and he's like, oh my God, this is horrible. and then George is like, well, this is not what I thought, and then it's like, well, it's a bold vision, it's an artistic vision,
I can sympathize with that at least. I mean,
CGI as
people
far
are
as the
such-
eye can see.
I mean, some people are such fucking consumers of these things that they just lose all semblance of it being an artistic vision. I mean, how would you feel if you conceived of this massive storyline
How
and you
is
can't?
episode 1 an artistic? He was just talking about the way it was shot.
I'm
Well,
just-
the first film actually, I think,
if you
won an
conceived
Oscar
of
for
a
best
massive
editing.
storyline and everybody
Yeah.
loved one.
It was
part of
well
it,
edited,
shit all
dog.
over it.
I'll give the film that. It was well edited.
Well, the first film, it had 3 editors, and one was Lucas's wife at the time.
Well,
And
Lucas's wife also had a huge influence on the screenplay. The
Mhm.
first couple drafts didn't make much sense, and it wasn't until his wife came in, it was like while he was writing them, and she was like, "That doesn't work, George. You need to cut that out." And because no one, he wouldn't listen to anyone else, so it was just like his wife had to be the one to be like, "No, doesn't so, George."
But
Well,
he
then,
didn't have
yeah.
that- he didn't have that person in his life during the prequels, and it showed.
No,
Right.
You have to,
About
you
that.
have to, you have
he
to
didn't have
learn to
Lawrence
be-
Kasdan either.
Yeah.
And that's the thing when he says like at an Empire Strikes Back convention and says, "Shut up, kid. You know, grow up. You know, these are my movies. I do whatever the hell I want with them." It's just aggravating because it's like, no, that's technically Irvin Kershner's film. Like, you did work on a story and the screenplay, but Kershner also added a lot to it. And
You
he
know, I don't
can't
have
speak for himself because he's no longer with us. So, you know.
I don't have a problem with them doing special editions, but just give us the original editions as
Yeah,
well.
that's the thing.
No.
Just give us that. Yeah. Trying to replace them with special
Yeah.
editions.
Pretending
is-
like they didn't exist doesn't work for me.
Insulting.
This is my honest opinion. I think a part of it is that I think Cole hit on this a little bit. He was really involved with those prequels. He put a lot of time and energy into them. And I think we all know this. If there was a choice between special editions and the originals, and just let me finish, that people would choose the original versions, even though George Lucas believes that's the inferior version, and that would be a stamp on his ego, and sometimes ego is shoved in there like it's a bad thing, but at times we all have a little bit of ego because we want to be proud of what we do. We want to be proud, and it's either that or you feel 100% bad about it. I think if you gave a choice out there, people would prefer the original version. They would pick that up, and in a way they've already done that, but if you physically gave them a choice, and you said, okay, we don't have a bar that shows how much money has been spent on each version, most of that bar will be raised on the original versions, and then maybe that would feel like he failed, maybe feel like he a big stamp on his ego, and I think there's a part of him, at least a part of him, that wants to stick his foot in the mud to say, no, this is what I believe in. Even though back in the day he was the type of guy who would be angry about colorization of movies.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, everyone says, why don't you give them a chance? Why are you so worried about? If you think your versions are superior, then just give people the choice because it wouldn't matter because you feel they're superior anyway.
Yeah.
But I have to believe there's a part of him that has certain ego, or maybe ego's the wrong word, there's a certain pride, maybe that's the word,
Yeah, pride's a good one.
that he thinks, and I think he'd be right, that most people would choose those original versions, just like people would choose the original over the prequels. And I think there's a certain part of that got, even though he made tons of money, he knows the backlash. He's not blind. I don't think he's blind. You even if you had no eyes, no ears, and no nothing, you would still know the backlash because they made their voices that loud. I think there's a certain pride issue, and maybe he doesn't want to admit that because none of us really want to admit that to the public. But I think there's a part of it. Maybe it's not the whole thing, but I think there's a part of it, and that's just my thought on it. I think if he put out the original versions, he gave the okay. He knows that people would choose those over what he later on did. I think that would be his shot at it, whether it gets
how
his
much
pride
of
or
it-
whatever.
I don't agree with that. I mean, it's just fundamentally for me personally. That just seems like you're just being egotistical, like, and not in a good ego.
I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying maybe that's how he looks at it.
I could totally
I'm not
see
saying I agree,
that being
but
his thought process, absolutely, because it's pretty obvious. It seems like it. So
How much of it though is he's just butthurt because people didn't like the prequel?
yeah, I mean that could be a big part of it too.
That is a big part of it. But I mean, when there's a
People didn't like
massive
his
response
changes.
to something, you have
They
to
don't like his
respond
changes.
massively, is all I can think. I don't think this would be.
Yeah.
I think people made it into a huge thing, and he wasn't going to back down, so he made it into an even bigger thing. Is really how I think. Once you've argued against something and put yourself out there a bunch of times on something, you can't fucking back down. So he's actually taken this 12 levels where he
I
should.
think you
Because there's not
can
any point where he's
if
going
what
to.
you're arguing about is completely and utterly, in a lot of ways, pointless. And really, honestly, there isn't really that much to fight about. Like I think you would think you get to a certain point in your life, like in George's life right now. He's retired. You think at least you try to mend the wounds that's happened with the fan base, and just be like, I'm retired now. I'm not a part of the franchise anymore. So I'll just say, hey, I some of the changes. I know you guys didn't like them, but I stand by some of them. But I apologize for the way I've
He
handled
still might
this.
do that, but no, he doesn't owe
And-
anybody an apology. To say he owes anybody an apology, is
I
fucking
think he
retarded.
does, because he was absolutely handled this situation.
It's one of those
absolutely pissed poorly. Like there's
think
no way he's gonna get respect from any of these fans except the diehards if he just continues to be a fucking prick about it.
Well, that's
And there's
but
no
he
reason for
doesn't
him to keep
need
being a
their
prick
respect.
about
He
it.
doesn't need their approval. He doesn't need any of that.
He's got their money. He
Without
doesn't need
us,
anything.
Exactly.
He's
He
nothing.
doesn't.
He's nothing. Without us, he's nothing. Exactly. Without us, when we stop buying his fucking products, he's
But
nothing.
they're not going
But people
to.
aren't doing
They're not
that.
going to stop buying.
Wait. You just put the head on it. People, instead, here's what the people do. They do spend the money on it, and
But
then
I
they-
don't.
and
I'm one
then
of the
they
people
bitch-
who don't.
And then they
so,
bitch like crazy. I believe you, and I'm sure you're right. But I'm just saying the problem, and here's the hypocrisy is they
Yeah.
do spend the money, and
And
then
I
they,
agree with
and then
that.
they bitch
People
like
who
crazy.
do complain and bitch like crazy, who do spend the money, I do agree. I mean, I buy it Laserdiscs. I buy a despecial. I look for the despecialized editions. Maybe I might buy a ball cap or a T-shirt every now
Well, I
and then.
mean,
But I don't
you're
buy
in-
I don't buy
you're in the
everything.
minority.
Yeah, guys, I
I don't
completely
buy
agree.
like
Fuck
every
George Lucas
bit
and
of
fuck Disney.
merchandise. I didn't buy anything on whatever was it, Force Friday or something, or what the heck was it? Where it was like a sale thing for all these, Star Wars merchandise. I'm in the
I'm
minority.
not a fan of any creator or anything who's like an asshole to his fan base.
Oh
but
yeah.
Obviously, I don't want a guy to be rude or full of
Yeah.
himself or treat his fans poorly. But on the other side of it, it's true. He doesn't owe them shit. He's already given them
Yeah.
some of the best things in the world, and it's true. It's too bad he messed with some of it, but I mean, whatever. It is his right.
I personally think I'd rather be remembered as for being a good person and a great individual for my entire career, not just for part of it. So that's the thing. Like George Lucas is like, he's responsible for some of the best things ever in film, and he's kind of responsible for some of the worst right now.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's this Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing that's really
I mean, just like he might be
fascinating.
he might be an an egomaniac at this point, but I don't think he
Yeah.
started out that way. I think some of the
No, he
backlash
didn't.
did it.
He was
You have,
very.
that's what I mean. When you have a crazy
Thrown earth.
backlash, you feel the need to rage against it. Now, not everybody does that. So, maybe a bigger, smarter, more mature person would have thrown his hands up, walked away, and said, okay.
He's acting like a child. That's
But,
the thing.
but I mean, they
Grown
wound
man,
him up.
and he's acting like a child about it.
They wound him up, and he responded in the exact same way they came at him, which isn't
Yeah.
good or right, but he is human. That's what I mean. Like, for instance, I don't think at first when he made Star Wars, even when it was great, he was such... Now, I could be wrong. This is just me, putting some faith out there. I don't think he made the original trilogy and thought, I'm a creative genius, I'm a god, I've made this amazing thing. I think it took years of people of this back and forth and failures and stuff to get the George Lucas we have that says, screw you, they're my movies. I don't think
agree
he
with
started
that.
out that way.
No, he didn't. He didn't. At first, he didn't. Like I was saying earlier, he didn't really have that much faith in Star Wars in the first place. It was going to be a movie he worked on and something he wanted to do, but because he even talks about he wants to do experiments, he wants to experiment with film and things like that, and
Again, I just sympathize with him from a creative standpoint because I mean I'm a try to be a creative person. I try to put things out there and stuff like that, and I and so far ineffectual. Nobody knows I'm a flip on the radar, right?
Yeah.
But I just imagine myself in his situation where suddenly, people respond in such a massively positive way. Yeah, exactly. They respond in such a massively positive way to something I did. But then when I change something or something comes along and they respond in that way,
I mean, you
it
have to at
wouldn't
least.
I'm just saying, it wouldn't really take that long for me to get to the same point where I say, you know what, fuck you guys. I made it. It's mine.
Yeah, well-
And, now you're twisted. I can at least understand that point of view. I'm not saying it's right, but I can understand it. I'd be like, you know what, I did write it, you know, or I did create it. It came from me. I'm sorry that you don't like how certain things have turned out since, or that I changed it, but I changed it because I wasn't trying to sabotage it. I like it too. I made it. Like some people seem to think like he just divorced himself from Star Wars, only cared about money, and then just fucked around with it for the sake of fucking
he
around.
kind of did later in his career. I totally believe he was doing merchandising. It was merch, and more merch.
Right.
And money, money talks. But
I mean,
money until he sold the fucking franchise.
Yeah, but that's what that's what I mean. I mean, look at was it Kevin Eastman? Is it Kevin Eastman or the other guy, Rambo, that walked away from Peter Laird?
First it was Kevin Eastman who left, and then later on, about 2009, Peter Laird sold it to Nickelodeon, Paramount.
Which I totally get, you know, and people are saying, like, why? It's like, well, did anything have, like, if anything compared to Star Wars as far as being, like, you know, merchandise and stuff, it was Ninja Turtles. And it gets to a point where it just becomes this big, ugly thing that you don't want anything to do with anymore. So I have no way criticize either of those guys for walking away from Ninja Turtles or selling it, because you know what, like, what they created became something that suddenly wasn't in their control.
Well, in a lot of ways, with George Lucas, I tell you, it's his fault. It's his fault. All of this is his fault. Like, if he just handled this better, like, I mean, the special editions, people would have been able to get a little bit over that after a while. You know, if you just, all right, you know, give them an option to have the original version. Like, that's the thing. I can't think.
I mean, that's the thing, and I mean, Rambo said it, right? Like, just give them the option. Taking away the option is a dick move. It is, you know, like saying you shouldn't watch the original because I want to change it, and you don't have the option. That's just a dick thing to do.
Yeah. And with the prequels, like, you would think after time, maybe he'd even realize that maybe these weren't very good movies. Like, you would think that some directors and some creators would at least admit, you know, when they fail, you don't always succeed. I mean, there's not. I mean, even Hitchcock would probably admit, you know, hey, that certain movie I did could have been better. I mean, he even remade stuff. Like, he remade stuff in his own movies. So even he thought, you know, he could do a better job.
What if Steven Spielberg went back and recut Jaws and put a CGI shark in the movie?
That would be horrible.
Added a bunch of scenes, made a lot of scenes longer, changed the music.
Nobody's ever done that. That's why it's
exactly. Nobody's ever done that.
Shocking.
And then defend his choices.
I mean, it's not like the changes that Robert Wise made to the motion picture.
He never had the itch to do it.
That was good.
He was satisfied with the original product.
It was good. Because in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the effects were kind of wonky. And so what Robert Wise did is he fixed up the effects and edited it a bit. So, you know, that's a change that's okay. But unnecessary changes, that's the stuff that just frustrates you.
It's the fact that he won't allow the originals, or wouldn't allow the originals to come out.
Yeah.
That's what
anymore.
I mean. Like I said, taking away the option, like, that's not defensible. I'm not defending that, you know. Because I mean, that's what it should be. He could say, you know, those were the originals. They were what I did.
How can you be like, fuck you, if you make a bad movie? You made a bad movie. Like, just friggin', I mean,
it's not a bad movie.
No, I mean the prequels. Like, you made Episode 1. It's a bad movie. I mean, Jar Jar was just a stupid idea. I mean, anyone.
I think to him, they're not bad movies.
I know, but that's just crazy to me. How you could think that Jar Jar is a good idea? Like,
he lost the Midas touch.
Like I said, he's the type of guy that has to stand by his choices. He dug himself a hole, and now he has to stay.
And that's admirable at a certain point, but there's a certain point where you got to let your pride fall. I mean, that's how it is. But, you know.
Do you think Biggs was going to make it? Because I sure did. You know, Biggs is his friend from the start. He's like, "Hey, Biggs, great to see you. Look, I joined the rebellion. It's great."
I thought so too. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of surprising to say Biggs died.
And going back to special editions, the changes in the effects were good. Like, I'm watching the specialized editions. Some of the changes they made in the special editions to the model work and the rotoscoping really improved the film. It improved the film a lot.
If they'd have stopped there, that would have been great.
You could kind of tell that it's, you know, this rotoscoped and their models.
Yeah. If he just touched up a few things, that would have been perfect. Adding in the Jabba the Hutt thing, adding in just
the bigger explosion of the Death Star at the end.
That's just
cool.
Yeah, that's just to me. That's just stupid stuff that doesn't affect the film, and it's not going to affect. If anything, it's just going to turn people against it because
Yeah.
The Jabba the Hutt
touching
thing
it up a little bit is perfect.
The
And
Blu-ray
Jabba
edits
the
he
Hutt
did,
thing
I
is
think he
pretty
did that to stick it to the fans. If you think about it, the Blu-ray edits that he did later on, like throwing extra rocks in front of R2's hiding place, just makes it impossible for him to hide behind there, and the no and all the other stuff. That seems like it was just added there to stick it to the fans, like, you know, fuck you.
I'll change what I want to,
Here's this,
and you'll
I'll
still
change
buy
what I
it.
want. Yeah,
I'll change what
exactly.
I want, you'll buy it with a
Well,
smile on your
didn't he
face.
say that?
Yeah.
I mean, didn't he say that more or less? Like, I'll do whatever I want, and you'll
Yeah.
still buy it. I mean, he said that.
Yeah.
He did that.
He's right, though. I mean,
well, that's what I mean.
in
But
a lot
I
of
mean,
ways, he
but
is
I mean,
right.
he's right. And I mean, they won't buy it with a smile on their face. They'll buy it with a scowl, but they'll still buy it, and then they'll bitch. And I mean,
I agree with that. I agree.
I mean,
that
I-
doesn't make any sense to me. That
among
you
the
would
people
still
here, I count
support it.
myself as a big Star Wars fan. I am one of the people that was really affected by the movies and stuff. But even I can say to a certain point, you know, like, give it up, people. You know, it is what it is. If this new movie comes out and I don't like it, I won't like it. But I just, you know,
I
don't
think
see
people
the
can
need
feel
to-
however they want to feel, but it is kind of difficult to really
That's what I mean. I
feel
don't-
that way, but you still are supporting George Lucas and you're still
There's a
buying all
difference
this
between-
stuff, and I hate him, but it's like the People versus George Lucas documentary. It completely wimped out at the end. It was like, oh, blah, 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 he sucks, da-da-da-da-da, I hate this, Jar Jar, da-da-da, but I love him, you know, he's great. You know, it's just like, what the
I got a question.
hell?
More question for the moment.
Go
Before
ahead.
we go. All right.
Go ahead.
So Lucas sold everything Star Wars related, the franchise, for $5 billion. Does he get anything out of it anymore, or is it all?
He sold a lot of he gave a lot of the money he made to charity, which is great. That's a good thing. I'll give him
When you're a
props for
billionaire,
that.
it's easy to do that.
But that doesn't mean doesn't give him
Speaks a
an
little
excuse
less.
to be an asshole just because he gave, you know, the charity. But
Tax break also.
I know, Mark
Yeah.
Zuckerberg is giving all his billions away, but nothing he does can make up for inventing fucking Facebook.
hey, I like Facebook.
Ugh.
But going back to the what Orc was saying, I think he still has like
Bigs, no, bigs.
sort of like revenue and stuff, and he bought money in stock. He bought a huge amount of stock at Disney, so he owns like
Okay.
50% of the company right now
Ah.
in like stock, which is something a lot of people overlook. So if you look at that, you find that number, then you're like, well, maybe he still has a decent amount of swing over some of these movies.
Yeah, I had no
Instead
idea.
of
I
the
just knew he
stock.
sold it. Yeah.
So it's 50% of Disney stock because he bought into stock after he sold Lucasfilm. So
But
When
I,
you're
That was a
that
smart
big of a
fucking move,
stockholder.
man.
if you're that big of a stockholder, you can make a good amount of decisions.
Yeah, that's weird
I
because
mean-
he could still be a creative force over this new series just based on the fact that he owns that many shares in Disney itself.
He's just
But I
not. He's just not on the credits.
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
right.
I
You guys
mean,
know that he wrote a script for The Force Awakens, right?
did you do that? Did you
Yeah.
do that for fun or?
And it was turned down.
he didn't like. It was turned down. He was upset. People, you know. Of course, he was upset that it was turned down. You know.
Of course.
That's what's interesting about George Lucas and about these Star Wars films. It's you have a creator who's created this awesome thing, but is also responsible for doing so much shit to it. Like how many instances do you see like this? It's a very unique situation, very unique scenario.
But it's a difficult scenario too.
It's a
Like,
difficult
to be honest,
scenario too.
Most
because
people
you're like,
aren't in this sort of thing.
I appreciate him immensely for creating Star Wars and being the one that helped bring it to life and for making ILM a thing and really advancing special effects to points they'd never been before and Pixar and a lot of those other things that he's helped with, do and
I mean,
worked on with Indiana Jones and stuff like that, produced Willow and stuff like that. But
like LucasArts. Just look at what
Yeah.
all LucasArts has done.
Exactly. That's what I mean. But people want to flush that if they don't like that he digitally.
well, I don't
inserted
agree
some
with
stuff.
that. I don't agree with that completely. He entirely sucks, type thing. It's like now he's an asshole, but the George Lucas from the past, like I would like to shake his hand, and I cheer for that man.
I know. And I mean, I know it's not you, but like a lot of the people that shit on the prequels, and there's nothing wrong with that exactly because of their quality, but a lot of people that shit on the prequels, like they sort of lose sight of it and make it seem like
Yeah.
it was George Lucas gone mad George Lucas was going to do this come hell or high water and nobody would stop him. But no, the world was actually, everybody in the whole fucking world, especially people wanted this desperately.
Right.
They're like, please, George, you have to continue this trilogy. You have to. Like, you know. So.
Then he does it and everyone shits on it for like 100 years.
Yeah, it's not like 50 years went by, Star Wars was no longer popular, and he was like, I'm gonna do this anyway, and the few remaining fans from back in the day were like, oh, this is terrible, why did you do that to us?
It's not like a remake, you know, it's not a remake of some movie from like the 80s or something 20 years later, it's just...
Yeah. And
to be honest with you guys, I think the original trilogy, that's it, nothing else.
Well, I agree.
Anything else can taint the greatness of the original.
I think if he tried to do it in the 90s...
I mean, that's how I feel about a lot of stuff.
That's the thing. I think if he tried to do it in the 90s and not the early 90s, when practical effects are still the big thing, and ILM was still really at the forefront, and he was still in the process of writing and producing and doing stuff, and I think it would have been a lot better. And I think it was sequels to this movie, not prequels, sequels. Like The Force Awakens.
But see,
I think that would have gone over better.
I can't agree with Jay because there's lots of great other stuff out there, but here's sort of the downfall of George. Like I said, I can't really pick on him for having an ego because not everybody can be Stan Lee, which is the complete other side of it. Stan Lee is the perfect other side of it, which is I've created a billion things that people love and that stuff, and every time somebody else does something else with it, I say, good. I even endorse it. I mean, Stan Lee for decades has written the introductions enthusiastically saying, I love this new writer's take on Spider-Man. Like, even when he knew it wasn't that good, because he was at least, you know,
trying to, like... That's the extreme of it. Like, George Lucas is the other extreme.
But that's what I mean. But people, like, seem to hate him because he can't be. But I just mean, it's too bad, because, like, I don't think Jay's right, because, as usual, because there's lots of other good stuff out there, including there's lots of good Star Wars novels, there's lots of good Star Wars comics.
I don't disagree with that at all.
That doesn't count anymore, though, according to
not the novels and stuff.
Disney. Oh, I thought you meant not extended universe.
Oh, I just meant movies in general.
Yeah, according to that, according to Disney now, it doesn't count. All that's not canon anymore. Like,
which is really mystifying. So they're saying, like, when we make our Rogue Squadron, it's the only Rogue Squadron. Like, all that other stuff you read about X-Wing and stuff like that you thought was good, well, it doesn't count. Yeah, see, that's shitty. Like, why do that?
Yeah. They went out and they said that the 6 movies and the Clone Wars cartoon and the new cartoon, that's it.
Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah, I don't get that. Like, Star Wars did kind of what, like, Marvel and DC did by accident, and instead of embracing it, now they're just sort of trying to shut it down, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, the books that I was kind of reading, I can't remember what they're called right now, but there's like a saga of books that came out in the 90s, and they were endorsed.
The one Heir to the Empire and things like that.
Yeah, like they were endorsed, stamped by George Lucas as sequels to.
Yeah, I really do.
I'm surprised that
they had problems.
Just like I feel bad for those people, then it's just like, well, that's what I mean. Like, there's been all this other great material that maybe could have been good sequels and stuff like that, like through like the past 25 years. And instead, like, what happens is you get a big fuck you. It's called, well, sorry, you're not involved. Disney owns it, and the hot director of the week, J.J. Abrams, is going to take the reins. So, you know,
I'm just glad it wasn't Colin Trevorrow. Oh wait, he's directing this episode 8. Right. Fuck.
Well, it could be Michael Bay. Would you rather have J.J. Abrams or Michael Bay?
He's directing
I don't really see much difference between the two.
Better than Michael Bay, but
I
that's
don't
not
see a
saying
lot
much.
of difference between the two of them.
Colin Trevorrow, I don't understand why he is getting episode 8. I mean, he's not a good director. I'm sorry. I've seen Jurassic World. There's nothing special about that at all. It just made $1 billion. Just want to hire him because, hey, it's written by George Lucas.
We've just concluded our live commentary for Star Wars.
I don't know if you can really call it a commentary.
It's not a commentary.
Not really commentary, but
it's a discussion. It's a discussion.
We'll call it, yes, let's call it a discussion. We watched the film, we discussed it, we commented on it some.
It's hard to talk about these movies without talking about some of that other stuff. It's really, it's sad.
We've got two more films
to watch. Baby.
2 more Star Wars films to watch.
We got all this shit off our chest first, so in this one, so we don't need to do it.
We'll talk about it again.
Yeah,
I'll try my best to actually talk about what's on the screen.
I'll try to be in sync this time.
So,
I wanted to mention the ships. We didn't get to talk about the ships. I know everybody was in a heated discussion there
Sorry.
during the battle, but I really think that's another aspect to it. You know, it's a lot of stuff that goes into why this movie is so great.
The practical
Just
effects
all
are
the
great. The
All the
model work
ships.
is fantastic.
I mean, just the design of the ships is so.
Yeah, definitely.
It's so memorable.
It
You
just
know,
plays
Y-wings,
in.
Y-wings, A-wings,
X-wings are awesome.
X-wings,
They
TIE
built them
fighters.
in a garage somewhere. I mean, that's
Great.
think about it. It was, you know,
Moviegoers had never seen things like that before. It was amazing.
no. And it was revolutionary, and Industrial Light and Magic then started a huge new wave of visual effects and practical effects, and went on to win Oscars and just changed everything. And I love special effects. I'm a huge fan of practical effects, and
And when
I
the great,
miss model work like that, and I miss, you know, stuff like that.
great thing about ILM is that George would hire them out to other people, so it wasn't only his films.
It wasn't
So
just his
really,
fault.
ILM
Exactly.
was responsible for the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, being really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was all because of George Lucas. So yeah, after he, well, I don't know, in the 90s somehow
But
he
look at
became
the guys.
he
I mean,
became
you
a
got
single
Richard
dad and
Edwards,
he
Dan
retired.
Dan O'Bannon. Dan O'Bannon.
Yeah.
And I don't know, after his retirement, after he came out of retirement in the 2000s, he was never the same. But in the 70s and 80s, George Lucas was the man.
Yeah, Ralph
Yeah.
McQuarrie.
And people forget that, like, that's what I mean when people, like, shit on him as a director and
Yeah.
say, like, well, he directed the first Star Wars and he got lucky. I was like,
He did American Graffiti,
THX,
too.
Yeah, he did American Graffiti and THX 1138, and
I
those
thought
are.
that movie sucked, but I liked 1138. But, you know,
I like it, but I mean, that's fine. But I just mean, I think it's a well-directed movie.
Maybe
Do you
when
think
you're, when you're co-producing movies with Steven Spielberg, when he's, you know, climbing the ascent of his...
Well, they were also friends, so that
Yeah,
really
so
helps a lot.
That's a pretty good thing right there. I mean,
Yeah.
he was right there. So I got to respect him for that, for this film, and for what he did for movies in general.
I appreciate him right now. I don't really respect him. I respect him from the past. I don't respect George now. He didn't respect me, so why should I respect him? But I do appreciate, you know, what he's done. I do. Like, I cannot not do that.
He just kind of suffers from something as a film producer and a director, that when the movie's done, it's done. You know, they say movies are never done; they're abandoned. But you're never supposed to go back to them. Whatever you have in the can when it's over, that's what it is. Forget about it. Move on to the next one. He can't let it go.
No,
He's just always got a dick with it. He just can't. He can't follow that rule. Just let it go.
It's crazy. He's both God and the devil. Really, if you think about it, he's a Star Wars fan's God, and he's also their devil.
He's Old Testament God.
Yeah.
He inflicts a lot of pain on his.
Real Wrath of God type stuff.
Well, it kind of went in reverse though,
together.
because you know, Old Testament, New Testament, he went the opposite
Living
way.
together. Mass hysteria.
Yeah, that's pretty. He's Bible in
We'll
reverse.
strike down upon them.
I don't care what you
Wow, you
want.
notice that Boba Fett? It's a special thing. So, because I'm watching the specialized edition, so it has all of these different like credits that say like thanks to all these people who helped us out, and then then it says you too, and then everyone at the originaltrilogy.com. So that's pretty cool that the guys who did the specialized editions did that for the fans to help with the remaster. Like that doesn't happen very often.
well, let's see what's going on out in Sausage Factory Nation. We've had several people tweeting at us tonight during the show. DJ Donnelly says, "Hi guys, how are you all? How's it going, buddy? Thanks for tuning in." Captain John 1985 says, "Star Wars is my favorite movie franchise of all time, and I hope Episode 7 is good." Joseph Purdue says, "Ever thought about doing a drunken commentary in the future?"
We're kind of incoherent enough as it is, aren't we?
Well, I think there's been a couple of times where we've pushed that envelope. I do believe.
There was a time when Cole had a glass of wine and threatened to beat all of our asses. So
Did I
that's the
threaten
last
you?
time
Oh
that
my
we did a
God.
drunken commentary.
Cool, I remember.
I
You
think
called me
that was-
fat. You called me fat, Cole.
I always call you fat.
I think he called us all fat.
He was real racist too.
he said all. I think he said all Americans are fat. I think that
Fat
was the
lazy
quote.
bastards or something like that.
All Americans are fat. I think
We're
that
just
was the
cavemen that
quote.
run around beating the shit out of each other all 24/7. That's all we do.
Oh.
No, you got guns for that.
Oh, too
I was gonna say that, but you.
Too soon. But it's always too soon.
That's
That's
true.
the problem.
Yeah, because you know those goddamn guns, they won't quit getting off the counter, going outside and shooting people, goddammit. These things are out of control.
I know. It must make people feel really happy to know that like their relatives were killed by people that bought the guns completely legally. That's got to be.
I'm talking about guns don't kill people by themselves. Neither do knives or baseball bats or anything else. Hey, you know what? That drunk driver killed somebody. That fucking car, man. We gotta ban cars because that's bullshit.
No, that's not the same
Let's not
at
go
all.
down this road. Let's not go down this road.
I'm gonna tap out, guys.
That
This
is
very
patently
tense.
ridiculous.
Perfect timing, Ryan.
I'm out of here.
Take care,
See you
buddy.
next week, buddy. See you next week, buddy. Take care.
For Empire, the best one.
Okay, there we go.
Very
Talk to you guys
true.
later.
All right, guys. Let's see. Captain John 1985 also tweets at us. He says, "No other franchise can top the majesty of Star Wars. It is untouchable."
And I think the at least the first 3 Indiana Jones films, I think, or Back to the Future, I think, are very, very close.
Yeah.
I think
Same for me.
Far.
Same for me.
So.
Let's see. Joseph Purdue tweets at us and says, "Did any of you guys ever own some Star Wars toys, and do you still have them today?"
Technically, I guess I still have. I bought like toys from the 1997 era.
Yeah, I had some of the same
was
ones
doing that.
too.
Even though I was getting a little too old for toys, they were, cool things to have. So, like, not that I felt like I was too old anyway. I didn't give a shit. It was just a good excuse anyway, right? So yeah, I was 13, 14. So I still have a few of those Kenner ones. Like Ryan said, one of them was that Sand Trooper and stuff like that. My sister will hate me forever because years ago I gave away like a 1980s Yoda to our friend who we talked about. He had a broken ear.
Yeah.
And he wasn't in. It's not like he was in the packaging or anything, but yeah, I don't even know how we had that Yoda. He was just randomly in with a bunch of my toys. Again, this was when I was young enough to not even know who Yoda was. So.
Well, I still have some. I have one like I still have like the not Anakin. It's Obi-Wan, the young Obi-Wan with the weird rat tail thing from episode 1. Yeah. But like he's missing an arm. Like his arm fell off, and I was never able to fix it. And I still have that toy with that's missing an arm.
I still have a computer game Dark Forces, but I can't.
I have a Vader one. I have a weird Luke one that was from like based on a comic where he like wore like this weird red armor, which is really really weird. And I have a Han Solo figure I bought, Boba Fett. I have like Bosk, the lizard guy. I think I have, what is it, IG-88? Is that who it is?
Yeah, IG-88.
I have that somewhere, and
that's a robot bounty hunter.
I have the villain from
like
Shadows of the Empire. Yeah, I have the villain from Shadows of the Empire, the green guy.
Prince Jr. or GR or whatever.
Yeah, so I still have some of them. And I have my X-Wing.
We don't need The Force Awakens. Let's make that a new movie. Where they should have they should have in the 90s done that when like I don't know. I guess
like I was saying, I think they should have done Shadows of the Empire or the Heir to the Empire, books and stuff like that.
Or Dark Empire. Dark Empire is not bad. Even though it's kind of a retread, it still would have been better.
I've got the Darth Maul still in its packaging from when the first episode
the big one
came. No, he's a little one.
There's like a big one I know that was like.
No, this is a little one. And like I think my actual first real introduction to Star Wars was the toys. Like a friend of mine, he wasn't really a friend; he was a relative. He had the old ones where the lightsabers came out of like the hand.
Yeah.
And so that was like my first.
Compared to the newer Kenner ones, the old ones were like, man, it was cool back then. But like, and now you look back at it, and you're like, that's kind of lame. Like, it's this little tiny lightsaber, and then like, if you played with it too much, it wouldn't even stay out. It would just keep sliding back into his wrist. It just.
I wish I had those. I wish I still had some of those. I never owned them, but I'd like to have some of those.
You know what I wish I still had? Not toys, but games. Shadows of the Empire, like Cole brought up, awesome game, and the Pod Racer game.
Yeah, that was fun.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember. I used to play the Dreamcast version of that.
Well,
speaking of toys, did you guys know that like the Star Wars toys are like more or less like directly responsible for He-Man, like the entirety of He-Man being created. Because like this guy like didn't want to buy the rights, and even in 1976, the rights to like the action figures was like too steep. And he was just like, it doesn't matter. And then Star Wars turns into this big thing, and he's just like, we need to produce something really fast, which is why like something as fucking generic as He-Man. It's like
they had,
he's a big, strong guy that lives in a world with stuff. I don't know, make it. And like that's how he.
But then you also have with Star Wars, like when the first toys were advertised in the catalogs, like they weren't even made yet. So what the kids got at Christmas was this piece of cardboard that pretty much was just like, you will get the toys eventually. It's just like, they aren't ready yet, but here you go. Here's this piece of cardboard.
Go fuck yourself. Here you go. Go fuck yourself.
Merry Christmas.
Mike, you said you had a lot of the toys growing up. How did you have a bunch?
Oh yeah, I had the X-Wing fighter. I had the Millennium Falcon. Well, my parents weren't rich, so I was able to acquire some things for Christmas, and then I was able to trade some older toys for maybe kids didn't know what they had. You know what I mean? It's like, that's pretty cool. I'll trade you this for it. Okay. Thanks, go.
Yeah, totally.
You're able to wheel and deal when you don't got the bread. You know, it's just
growing those kids around like little.
You're
kids.
able to pull a few jobs.
You just going up to little kids with like like, hey, here.
I was a little kid. I was a fellow little kid. You know, it's not my fault. I wasn't picking down. I was.
Alright. Like, can you imagine that? Like, you're an adult, you're like a teenager, and you're just going on, like, around little kids.
What the hell did you think? I was like 25 years old or something? Walking around smacking a fucking 10-year-old head. Give me that toy! I don't think so.
No, you trade it. You trade it. You just trick them. You manipulate them. You'd be like, this is a really cool toy. And
Hey,
the
dumb,
kid, yeah.
But if both kids are 8 years
one.
old, whose fault is it really? I mean,
That reminds me of a funny story. When I was a kid, I collected baseball cards. It was just sports cards, mostly baseball cards. And a friend of mine lived down the street. He collected baseball cards too, but he had no idea who anybody was or what anything was worth. And he had like 10 Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards. And like another guy from down the street totally ripped him off, traded him a bunch of scrubs for all the Ken Griffey Jr.
God.
Well, this guy's brother was a straight-up psychopath. Like, you do not mess with this dude, he'll kill you. He comes to my house one day beating on the door, literally beating on the door. And I'm like, hey, what's up, man? And he goes, did you know this guy that took my brother's cars? Did you know that were you in on that? I'm like, nope, that dude lives right over there. Right there. Go get it.
Got all these carbon bucket cards, son. Take these.
So he went over there, and
well, you know this motherfucker.
Exactly. I mean, that's it. Like, on my front porch, like my parents in the living room, he's like, yeah, like, you know this guy? You know, where's this guy at? Were you in on this? Did you know he was doing this? And I'm just like, nope, right over there he lives.
Like, if you were in on it, that would have been so scary. Like, if it's scary even when you're not in on it, but if you were in on it, it would have been even more terrifying, because you would just been like, I know, I don't know nothing. I don't know anything. I wasn't doing anything. He's always done that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That guy seems like he's getting 3 hots in a cot these days.
Well, I think he actually got the guy to give some of the cards back. I don't think he got them all back, but he got.
Can you
some
imagine
of them
that?
back.
Just him trying to get the cards back, just being like, "You're giving the free cards."
Yeah. Well, he went down and he got them back. So I mean,
Trade's a trade, man.
Trade's a trade. Yeah,
trade backs.
I remember Micro Machines of Star Wars stuff and Star Trek and stuff like that.
I got super pissed off when finally the most logical thing in the world happened and Lego started making Star Wars stuff.
I lost my Micro Scenes though because what happened was it got taken away from me at community school.
Because I was like in my 20s by the time like that happened. Although I swear to God, if I move to a better apartment, I'm gonna have a big table and I'm gonna start buying Legos again and doing it the right way. What you never do as a kid, which is like save everything and have the box. That way, you know.
They look so cool now. The new stuff.
I know they
and
look
the
so
Lego
cool,
stuff.
and I'm just like, I'm gonna start over. I swear, as soon as I get lots of time and money.
And then you go to the Lego store, you're like, wow, that Millennium Falcon looks awesome. They're
It's only $150.
$150. It's only more money than you make.
He looks at me. He's like, more than you have to your name. I'm like, all right, fine. Have a good time.
Well, guys, let's go ahead and let's wrap up this show. Big thanks to everybody out there who tuned in, who watched Star Wars A New Hope with us tonight, everybody who tweeted at us, everybody who joined us in the live chat over on the website. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Join us next week, next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we will be watching and discussing The Empire Strikes Back, and I'm sure it will be another lively discussion. So
I'll try to.
I'll try to talk more
I'll
about
try
what's actually
to.
on the
I'll talk
screen.
about the movie.
Yeah.
My bad.
I
It's
promise.
mostly my fault, really.
no.
I think.
Nope.
I think it's like.
it's all about the discussion. It's all about the discussion. We covered a lot of bases.
Like I said,
We gave a lot
kind
of
of
discussion.
unavoidable.
Very entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we got it out of the way early. Probably
That's
not.
what I was
We got it out of our systems.
Probably not completely, but
We'll see. You'll have to tune in
I
next
had
week
it already
to
out
find.
my system. I did 2 videos about George Lucas already. You would think I would already be done. Like I just shut up about George Lucas.
Yeah. So maybe we've got it out of our systems. Maybe we don't. You'll have to tune in next Thursday at 8 on the Sausage Factory YouTube channel to find out. So until next Thursday, you guys have a great week. We'll see you. Have a great one. Peace.
yeah, the Force be with you.
Yes, may the